Alex Cora, who was part of that Astros scandal, taking on the Red, and now he's the manager of the Red Sox. He was a part
of the
Red Sox scandal. Sorry,
you
about
eject
that.
on words sometimes, and I just attribute it to
I
a
eject on
Northeastern
thoughts
thing.
sometimes. Yes,
that was a stroke.
Taking on the Red,
Yeah, well, he's taking on the Astros, and then you have Dusty Baker, who was brought in to be the Astros manager. And now Dusty Baker might be able to face the San Francisco Giants, his former team that he managed, in the World Series. I mean, the baseball playoffs have been fantastic. No one's paying attention. No one's really talking about it. And I love the way these guys react to winning. They act like little kids. It brings me back to my childhood, but only in the postseason. And I just wish baseball would figure out a way to attach stakes. I'm not trying to fix baseball. I'm not trying to do it today. But stakes to regular season games. And all I would say is put in a point system like hockey, because I think that would work. A point system like hockey would make these little 3-game series in the middle of July and August against the Pirates. It would make them extremely valuable.
You are trying to fix baseball.
I guess I am.
You're trying to
during
fix
football season, which is odd.
While loving
usually
baseball,
a July topic,
and while treating the storylines in the sport about 80-year-old Dusty Baker, about the manager.
I like that. That's what I like about baseball. It's why I love it. I mean,
the managers is what you like about baseball?
Just, things could come full circle where Dusty Baker could manage against the San Francisco Giants. I find that to be a very cool story. I do.
What I love about baseball is the Tampa Bay Rays hadn't lost 3 straight games since July, and they just lost 3 straight. And then last night, you've got Josh Hader. Nobody hits him. Lefties don't hit him. Righties don't hit him. 21 scoreless innings. Lefties this year, according to Jason Stark, he had faced 50 of them. 1 extra base hit, a double by Hosmer in May, 6 hits, 23 strikeouts. But Freddie Freeman is great.
Yep.
And he ran into Freddie Freeman, and the Atlanta Braves end up advancing in a way that I don't think America wanted. I don't know that America is wanting to watch that Atlanta team, but I'd like to see Freddie Freeman play in important games.
No, I believe Hader hadn't given up a home run since July. A home run of any kind since July.
Incredible.
And I also found interesting in both of the big games the last couple nights, Rays, Red Sox, and last night in Brewers, Braves, both teams were trying to small ball in the 9th. And I think the Rays pulled it off, but the Brewers tried to bunt, and the guy, popped it up to the catcher. And it's so funny, given how much you talked about home run or nothing being the outcomes, Kirchen was on here bemoaning that no one can small ball. In the biggest spot of the year, the Brewers, a damn good team, tried a small ball, and they couldn't pull it off.
Yelich, what a disaster, huh? Just a whole season of disaster from a guy who was an MVP. It's weird.
Baseball's weird.
That sport is strange. What isn't something that you see very often that we have seen from a player in basketball, and now has me doing something I have not done in a while. I am rooting for someone to be great, and it might not be the reasons that you think I'm rooting for someone to be great.
Wow.
Tyler Hero has told Jeremy Tash of Bally Sports that he belongs in the conversation.
Tache, fine.
With Luka, with Trae Young, with Ja Morant.
200.
Ja. I'm going to make him Hispanic my entire life. He puts himself in the conversation with those 3 people, and I am now rooting for him to be great, not because I want the Miami Heat to be great, not because I've got relationships in the Heat organization, not because I particularly like Tyler Hero, but because he's going to make so many people mad and hate this team. And I miss when people hated this team, and this team was relevant enough to fight the hatred. And if he's great,
I mean, they hated LeBron, Wade, and Bosh coming together is what they hated.
But if
you
Tyler,
think they're going to hate Hero?
If Tyler Hero is great, I believe they will have their reason to dislike this team because he's not going to be great.
Wait a second. They're probably the most hateable team in the NBA without Tyler Hero.
He's going to be someone who carries that swagger in a way that puts people off. I don't think the Miami Heat are the most hated team in the NBA. I don't think they've been
You
relevant.
look at some of the players they put together, like P.J. Tucker, Jimmy Butler historically has been annoying. Kyle Lowry, people hate how he flops. I mean, they got a Morris twin. They're a tough team, but they're also very easy to dislike.
Are they good enough to be hated though? I think Dan's kind of right. I think people don't like the Nets.
No, they're very good. Well, then Nets probably got a little worse.
Yeah.
We'll see.
When I say the Heat haven't been relevant, I'm not even saying that. Obviously, they were in the finals 2 seasons ago. I'm saying it because nobody expected them to be in the finals. And generally, you don't get to be the most hated team in the league as a 4 or a 5 seed. You have to be some kind of excellent to be that. Now, they might be the most hated team of this audience just because of Mike Ryan and Ryan Cortez.
Chill. That's our Hurricanes. At least the Heat are good.
What did you make of Tyler Hero saying that?
It aggregates poorly. I think he was more talking about his mindset and his own belief that he belongs up there. But that does not look good when it's aggregated to an IG screen cap.
I just love how empty it is to say in the conversation. I mean, he just placed himself in the conversation, so he gets to be in the conversation. Like, I don't. What is
it's
that?
insane to compare yourself to that group of players. Those are elite basketball players. He's certainly not there yet. Most people will say with a brain that he will never get there, but that's the kind of mentality you want out of someone who could be this team's leading scorer. They're having that conversation right now. You need to have that arrogant way about you.
It's the exact way you want him to act, especially coming off of last season. What he could say that the others can't say, Dan, is that he led a team. Now, it was in the bubble, but he led a team to the NBA Finals. He was one of the reasons a team got to the NBA Finals.
There's a difference between those two things you just said.
I mean, Luka can't say it. Trey can't say it. Yal Morant can't say it.
Well, Tyler Hero also can't say it if you're saying he led the team to it.
All of those people can say they led a team less far than Tyler Hero didn't lead a team that went further. Tyler Hero
was big.
He was big in a game, and he made a
couple of games.
He made some
He
shots.
was kind of their closer that
was.
entire
You
season.
can't say Tyler Hero led the Heat, Stugotz. You're not allowed to say that.
Dan, he had some monster games. If you game log that run through the bubble to the NBA Finals, Tyler Hero had some monster games, and Mike is right. He became the closer.
Let's
game log it. Monster games.
I said he was the closer in regular season situation.
And I'm telling you, monster games. Game log it.
I mean, the Miami Heat had a different leading scorer in every series that they played.
This is one of the things
Not the way I remember it.
I hate so much about Stugotz.
What's that?
It's that you make a claim.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
You get it wrong. Then you try to stubbornly defend it. No, but then the we'll see.
Jury's out.
We'll see. Jury's out. Useless cliche. Useless cliche.
Uh-huh.
You make us look it all up, and it's usually what we're looking up, a manifesto of things that we have to look up to disprove you. And then when you're disproven, you're just like off to the next lie, off to the next absurdity, off to the next thing that's wrong. And when you tell us again that it's wrong, then we have to look it all up to prove you wrong.
I'm not making Mike do anything he doesn't want to do. Everyone except for you loves a good scroll through a good game log. I mean, everyone does that.
I don't believe.
How do you think this game log is going to turn out for you? What are you hoping for?
A couple of big games.
So that's
what do you classify as a big game?
So that's a victory for you. If a couple of big games is leading the Heat to the finals.
I see you right now. Do not research.
Why can't I game
log?
No,
because I want to know what you classify as a big game.
You
said a couple of big games.
For a rookie leading a team to the NBA Finals.
Here comes.
He didn't lead them to the NBA Finals.
Oh, that's the way I remember
What are you claiming that we are about to disprove?
What are the couple of big games? What's a couple of big games?
I'm going to say he had at least one 40-point game in there somewhere. I'm going to say there were at least 4 to 5 30-point games, maybe
ridiculous.
6 assists,
okay,
5 boards, hit a bunch of threes. I want to say there were some 25-point games in there, some monster fourth quarters.
Let's just go through it.
Game log fourth quarters, by the way.
There are no 40-point games. There's 0 40-point games.
Maybe a 38 in there somewhere.
There's a 37 in there.
Yeah, there's one game above 25 points.
Yeah.
It was a 37-point game against Boston.
Boom.
Other than that, he eclipsed 20 2 other times. Both of them were in defeats.
Boom. Man, nailed it.
Now, in that series, though, Stugotz, I will give you Tyler Hero did score one more point than Jimmy Butler in that Boston series.
Thank you.
He also scored less than Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo, though.
All right.
Both of them in defeats is a really undermining context to two of his 20-point games, because that can't, if you're doing it in defeat, you're not leading them to anything other than defeat.
Right.
Like you're not.
I mean, listen, they would have gotten blown out of those games if Tyler didn't play so well. He kept them in the games.
Yeah.
It was just, it feels like so long ago, but it was just a year ago. I was just reminded by looking at these game logs of the Solly Hill minutes. Remember the Solly Hill? That brought a community together.
This is why I'm rooting for Tyler here to be great, because I don't want to be caring about the Solly Hill minutes anymore. I want the team to throw 5 starters out there and always have 5 people out there who aren't Solomon Hill. Explain to us what happened with Yelich, Adnan. Are you willing to just? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He would just fall out of the sky there, so you have to introduce him and make
Okay.
sure to promote Cinephile.
Yeah.
I would say we were talking about how much you love the baseball series.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can pick it up at Yelich, correct?
No, because I want to keep some of the Tyler Hero stuff in there, so I
Right.
would just bring it back to baseball. All right, it's
Okay.
You would say like Stugotz was saying he loves
Yeah,
baseball,
I would
loves
say
the postseason.
let's pause
and then
the
go to
Tyler
those.
Hero talk, because there's plenty of opportunities for us to annoy you with Tyler Hero talk throughout this year too.
Mm-hmm.
But let's bring it back to baseball.
We will have plenty of chances to bother you with Tyler Hero talk. I really am rooting, Stugotz, for him to be great, just so that it can agitate America and this Heat team could lead again to Miami fighting everybody over basketball, because if he's great, they will be great. But Adnan Virk is with us now. He loves a lot of things. He loves the movies. Cinephile is something you should check out. He loves tennis. He loves sports in general, but he loves baseball, very high on that list as well. What have you liked so far? Because Stugotz has announced that he's no longer trying to fix baseball. He loves baseball again.
Yes.
That'll change in a couple of innings, but that's where he is right now. What have you enjoyed so far early going?
Well, I can't wait to let the commissioner know, because Rob Manfred has been concerned about Stugotz jumping back on the wagon. So that is the first thing I can cross off my checklist. Good to see all of you as always. I think the Red Sox story has been amazing, Dan. It's why I don't gamble, because I'm an idiot. I support everyone in gambling with DraftKings because you're all smarter than me. But I said of the 4 series, the one that was the most easy to predict, the Rays won 100 games. The Boston Red Sox barely made the playoffs. They squeaked by the Yankees. Their bullpen is in tatters. Alex Cora is a magician and should be manager of the year, but they're not going to win. And then they dispatched Tampa in 4, including a Christian Vasquez walk-off home run, which has Matt Vasgersian invoking Carlton Fisk, and all of New England is celebrating. And then in game 4, the fact that they had a 5-0 lead, and you feel like, the old Red Sox of yore, perhaps a catastrophic loss coming as Tampa comes back to score 5 runs. Kiermaier with a throw for the ages, nabbing a runner at third, but ultimately 2 errors by the Rays. Boston wins. I think the Red Sox are a good story. The last team that went from last to an LCS performance was also the Red Sox back in 2013. I get the fact last year was a 60-game season, but nobody expected Boston to be in this position. And now the fact they're facing the Houston Astros. Listen, Dan, every movie, everyone needs a villain, okay? And the Houston Astros are more than happy to wear the black hat. And I'm at the point now that I embrace Carlos Correa, because he's like, bring it on. I'll be the heel. All good. He's up at the plate, couple runners on, 0-2 count, no problem. Correa base said makes it 2-1. The Astros just embarrassed the White Sox. So I think Boston, Houston's a lot of fun. And then, of course, Dodgers, Giants feels like the World Series. I mean, this is the first round, and you go 107 wins, 106 wins in the first round. We've never seen that before, and we're going to get a Game 5.
Adnan, we have spent plenty of time ripping the Astros, rightfully so, since it was found that they cheated in the postseason and the World Series. Manager fired, GM was let go, he was fired as well. But should we not be giving this organization some credit here, because they're playing now in their 5th straight championship series? Springer leaves, no big deal, we replace him. Garrett Cole leaves, no big deal, we replace him. The team, the organization has done a very good job.
Couldn't agree more, Stu. I mean, this is a completely new administration. Obviously, Lunau's gone. A.J. Hinch is gone. Alex Cora is gone. Dusty Baker comes in, sans toothpick, because he's got the mask on. We should have the toothpick back. But at 72 years of age, Dusty's done a great job as far as being a calming influence. And you're right, even those Astros that were used to saying their names, they did not have strong seasons. Jose Altuve had a sub 300 batting average this year. Alex Bregman was hurt for much of the year. He had 12 home runs in the regular season. Yuli Gurriel actually led the league. He's the batting champion. Michael Brantley had another spectacular season. He's second in the batting race. They've got Kyle Tucker, who had a .650 slugging percentage from August 1st on. They've had other performers step up. Verlander obviously out. Lance McCullers became their ace. Framber Valdez, very good. So I agree with you. I think Houston deserves credit. This is not, those familiar names we still see in terms of Correa, Altuve, and others, but they've clearly done a good job of adding to their nucleus and adapting. And 5 straight LCS appearances, I don't think people appreciate how hard that is. This happened with the Braves of the 90s and the A's of the 70s. No other team has done that. That's awfully impressive.
Toronto's a good deal better than Boston, correct?
I think so, Dan. If you look at the metrics, we get our buddy Boog on here. Run differential is one of the great stats these stat heads love. They go, look, run differential. The Jays were top 5. They've got to make the playoffs. And yet the only way that stat could be misleading is that maybe when they win games, they bludgeon opponents 10-2 and they're losing games 4-3. But to your overarching point, hey, if you bat up their offenses, I think Toronto's is better. If you have their pitching, I think Toronto's is better. And yet somehow Boston's this team right now in the LCS.
Well, explain this part of it to me, though, because the reason were they the weakest team in the playoffs? Just pitching staff and, then JD Martinez hurts his ankle, right, in a weird way. They were, how much were they the worst team in the playoffs by?
How lousy was Boston? You're right. Listen,
he's right, though.
You're right, but JD Martinez out, that hurts them. Devers is incredible. He's got 20 RBI in 20 postseason games. He hits 389 runners in scoring position in the playoffs. He's amazing. But their offense has not been as strong as in years past, although Renfroe had a quiet 30 home runs. Their pitching, Dan, is their main Achilles heel. When you look at these other teams, you look at their stars, you go, okay, these guys bring it. For the Red Sox, you go, Chris Sale, who barely pitched this season, and he hasn't been strong for them. He's their ace. Nathan Eovaldi, I think, is an excellent pitcher. He outpitched Garrett Cole, the wild card game. But Eduardo Rodriguez is a 4.74 ERA kind of guy. And their bullpen, Barnes was an all-star in the first half of the season. He's so bad now, he's irrelevant. He's Mr. Irrelevant. They don't even use him in the bullpen. So Alex Cora has to mix and match and go, okay, maybe I'll use a starter, Pivetta for a couple innings of the relief, which he's done in the past to much acclaim back in 2018. But I think it's amazing how they have to pull the strings, because if you go roster player by player, Houston and Boston, the Astros should win this series. There's no question about it.
What happened to Yelich?
It's confounding because this guy is a former MVP and obviously had some injuries a little bit, sure. Last year, bad season. Okay, 2020 happens. Francisco Lindor didn't have a good season. A lot of guys had bad 2020s. But this year, what's most concerning is the lack of slugging percentage. There's no oomph in his bat at all. And Dan Plesac said to me yesterday, he goes, he's Jason Hayward. And I said, oh my God, like this is next year's when the contract kicks in, 7 for 178. He's guaranteed $26 million annually for the next 7 seasons. I'm like, oh my God, that feels like an albatross already. And I know everyone's pointing to one at bat, Dan, and for good reason. Like, for God's sake, swing the, like, Stu knows this as the Mets. I'm like, Carlos Beltran still can't live the fact down in 06. He wouldn't swing against Adam Wainwright's curveball. Like, just go down swinging. Yelich didn't even swing, and those pitches were in the strike zone as he meekly goes down. The Braves beat the Brewers. I think, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer, but it's mystifying because he's a better player than what he's shown. And if I'm the Brewers, it's awfully concerning. Their offense was inept. That's why they lost against the Braves. They couldn't score, and your best player is going to step up, and Yelich disappeared.
So they're going to play in the World Series next year, and Yelich is going to give a pep talk during the rain delay, and they're going to win. Is that what's going to happen?
You nailed it, Jessica. They're going to say, well, Yelich didn't really contribute much, but you know what? He gave a gladiator-type speech, just like Jason Hayward. That's what exercised the demons here for the Brew Crew. You know what? Yelich for MVP. He can do all he wants.
Can we discuss this for a second? Because I'm not sure how fair this is. What he just did to Carlos Beltran is accurate. Because, yes, Beltran as a big acquisition, a guy who was a huge winner throughout every postseason he ever played in, went to the Mets and ended a series by just looking at a pitch.
Yeah.
But that seems like an unfair thing to do, because clearly if you're just looking at a pitch, you've been fooled. And I understand that all of us are saying, well, just swing the bat, but clearly he was fooled by whatever it is happened.
Don't be fooled. You can be fooled.
Don't
just
be fooled.
Swing the bat.
Okay.
Hope it lands in the right place.
Don't be fooled. Okay.
Even if the ball was in the mitt and then you started your swinging. Go, well, he went to swinging. Right?
Okay. So you guys are saying Beltran needs to go out right now to where Shea Stadium was, and he's got to stand at home plate and just swing now because you got to say that you at least swung.
I'll take it, but if he swung while they were celebrating, I would have been fine with that as well.
Fine. You guys just want someone to swing. On Cinephile, I know that you guys are tackling 007, the last of the Bond movies. I know you have Chris Whittingham on. We don't want to spoil anything here, but there's been several arguments that have broken out around here about 007, and I think Mike is profoundly done with the franchise. I think he was just simply labeling the movie terrible.
I think the franchise is done regardless of what I think about how the film went down. And again, I'm not going to give spoilers, but it was my least favorite theater experience watching James Bond. I was so disappointed by the entire pacing. I don't know how you have a damn near 3-hour movie and don't build out a villain whatsoever. Whatsoever. Remy Malek is the bad guy because he has scars. I still don't know what he wanted. I mean, other than chaos, but
you watched for 3 hours and don't know what the villain wanted.
No, I don't. It was just such a poorly crafted villain. I left that theater so disappointed. They have all right action sequences. Daniel Craig is doing his best. They introduce some characters very poorly to the point that you're rooting against people that I think you're supposed to be rooting for, Chris.
Yeah, then they introduce a new 007, spoiler alert, and you end up rooting against her. Like, you don't, like, they pit her against James Bond, and that's not the idea is that 007 is going to evolve, right? Whatever the next iteration beyond Daniel Craig is, that it's going to evolve, presumably from white men. And so this is like our first introduction into it, and you end up rooting against her, and it was like, that's not the point. That's not like, I don't want to be rooting against the new 007, but it's kind of the framing for what they put her in the movie as.
Yeah, I saw Mike Ryan's tweet and I said, wow, this is going to be a catastrophic cinematic experience when I go see it. I liked it more than Mike, although I agree with him. 2 hour, 43-minute running time was awfully bloated. And Rami Malek might go down as one of the worst Best Actor Academy Award winners ever. Like, he never should have won for Bohemian Rhapsody. It was a thoroughly subpar movie. I don't think he's a particularly good actor. And I agree with Mike. He was not a very well-drawn villain. But I like Daniel Craig. I think he's an excellent actor. And I like the action sequences. I thought the first action sequence was fantastic. I thought they really kind of brought it in those respects. That the ending was surprisingly poignant. Spoiler alert. The bigger question is, as Chris and Mike alluded to, Daniel Craig is done. He's hanging up his stirrups, so to speak. We need a new James Bond. And I kept thinking about it, and I've got the guy. It's Roger Federer.
Oh, I mean, for the love of God. Oh, for the love of God.
Picture Roger Federer in the tuxedo, salad flowing. Men want to be him. Women want to be with him. Who is saying no to Roger Federer?
I don't want to be Roger Federer. I've never once wanted to be Roger Federer.
I've never once wanted to be with Roger Federer either.
I've wanted to be with Roger Federer. Have you just proclaimed, you've proclaimed Remy Malek a bad actor?
That's correct. I don't think he's really given much of substance in his career, and I was appalled when he won Best Actor for that movie. I was appalled.
Have you seen Mr. Robot?
I haven't. I know everyone raves about that, Jessica. Fine, I'll give him if that's one good show. You got to give me more than one good show, which I hear allegedly is good.
Adnan, he's great in Mr. Robot, but he's great because I'm pretty sure he's just playing Remy Malek. I just think he's an odd bird.
Which is to say, Mike, just a creepy weirdo. Like, here's Remy Malek. We're going to try something different. How about an oddball guy who just doesn't fit in? Like you said, he's got scars. Even better. Rami's in.
What's your criticism of the Bohemian Rhapsody performance? Is it because the teeth are so unnerving? They really are.
That's a fair part. I did think he was going to take a bite out of me at some point, but ultimately, I just thought it was a very diluted version of what Queen was all about. It's one of these sanitized versions, like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, minus the sex and the drugs. We'll give you the greatest hits compilation. I learned nothing about Freddie Mercury. I didn't think they dove in nearly strong enough into any sort of source material. You have to come out of a musical biopic thinking, you know what, I learned something here. Jamie Foxx is Ray, Joaquin Phoenix is Johnny Cash. In the example of Bohemian Rhapsody, I just thought it was such a mediocre film, and his performance in particular just felt like an impersonation. I fault the script, but you've also got to give me some more charisma. I don't think he had that.
I thought in the final scene, though, he really did become Freddie Mercury, like you said. And maybe you're right. Maybe it was just a really great impersonation, but isn't that what acting is?
No, I think you've got to give me more than that. Like, I think it's kind of like Olivier said, right? It's outside in. I think you give the imitation first. You look like him, you sound like him, but then you actually have to give the essence of the man at the risk of sounding hokey. I know Dan's already rolling his eyes. I think you've got to give me a lived in, breathed in impersonation. I didn't get that coming off the screen from him.
Jean Dujardin won in 2011.
Yeah. Love Jean Dujardin for the artist. Amazing.
Yeah, but come on.
Just love all the pronunciation of Jean Desjardins.
Is that what you
he won just because everyone wanted to be able to say, who won Best Actor? Jean Dujardin.
It was like an alarm that called him. It was like the siren's call.
He was aroused.
Put it on the poll, Whittingham. Were Remy Malek's teeth unnerving in Bohemian Rhapsody?
Wait, do you have like a top 5 best worst actor of all time list? Because you were very quick with that. Remy, I thought he was excellent in that movie.
I have to look at right now, Stu, who else was nominated. Because remember, that year was appalling that he won. So as we quickly do this on the fly, he beat out Christian Bale, who was nominated for Vice. Bale was better. Bradley Cooper nominated for Star is Born. Bradley Cooper was better. Viggo Mortensen nominated for Green Book. Viggo Mortensen was better.
Hold on.
A sale?
$5.
That's not $5.
Stop covering it up.
It
was
sounds like a
Bradley
sail
Cooper.
got caught on our sailboat.
I don't know what happened.
Mike, find that sound and isolate that sound of Stugotz hiccuping a belch of phlegm, please.
It sounded like a gust of wind just went through it.
It seemed like
a flag.
I want you to
Bradley Cooper,
I
imagine.
looked
man,
to
he
see
does
if the
that
window
to
was
me.
open. If
Sounded
there was
like a
draft.
parachute open.
It was what happened is some wind got caught behind a sail of phlegm. Yes, it was a parachute opening of phlegm in Stugotz's throat. Please continue, Adnan. I'm sorry.
20 here.
That's okay. That was his reaction to Rami Malek winning Best Actor. The phlegm came out. I totally don't blame Stu whatsoever.
Exactly.
I do like to sing the visceral, the fine actor being paid. Sorry. Here's the 5 nominees. Christian Bale for Vice. He was better than Rami Malek. Bradley Cooper, A Star is Born, better than Rami Malek. Viggo Mortensen, Green Book, better. And the one who should have won, Willem Dafoe, who's never won an Academy Award. He was up for At Eternity's Gate, playing Vincent Van Gogh. So Rami Malek was the worst of the category by far. And Stu, here's another one. 1994. When Tom Hanks won for Forrest Gump, he was the worst of the 5 nominees.
Yes.
Morgan Freeman for Shawshank Redemption, John Travolta for Pulp Fiction, Nigel Hawthorne, The Madness of King George, which I just reviewed on Cinephile, great British movie, which Cody and I loved. Paul Newman for Nobody's Fool, which again, he's kind of just a doddering old man, but it's Paul Newman. And then you got Tom Hanks. Like, what? He's the worst of the 5 performers. Again, imitation, no real performance.
What about the Academy Awards in 1999? That was the guy
Shakespeare
who
in
played
Love.
Well, no, the actor.
98
best
and
actor.
there's 99 awards. I got you.
Best actor for Life is Beautiful. Roberto Benigni.
That movie's wonderful. It's so sad.
Yeah, but he beat out Tom Hanks for Saving Private Ryan, though.
I'm with Roy partly. I went with Jessica as well. I do love the film because I love Benigni, and I think it's a beautiful
So
film.
sad.
Great
But
father-son
Adnan,
story.
Adnan.
His
But,
acceptance speech.
but to Roy's point, he should not have won Best Actor. Should have been Nick Nolte for Affliction, which is an incredible film.
No,
I mean,
Edward
excellent.
Norton.
And Edward Norton.
Norton in American History X. Easy.
Also great. But Nolte in Affliction is unreal. Him and James Coburn, Alcoholic Son. I mean, Nick Nolte, one critic, Jeff Revere, once said, he has a voice like a talking ashtray. Like, Nick Nolte in that performance feels like an alcoholic. You can just see this growly-faced
But
bear.
wait a second.
Wait a minute. Nick
How much of a
Nolte
leap is
wait
that?
a minute. He felt like an alcoholic in
not
everything he was
range.
ever in.
Yeah, that's not range. Here's range. Edward Norton
Since
felt like a
48
Nazi.
hours.
He was like
That's range.
He was an alcoholic in Cape Fear. He always felt like
He sounds like he's an ashtray because he's an alcoholic, Adnan. Edward Norton, to the best of my knowledge, is not a Nazi.
To the best of our knowledge, Mike. But that curbside scene
If
could
he
have fooled
was,
me.
I did
was
not see that coming.
What are you doing? What? You hit yourself with that. The rare good Nazi joke. It's a degree of difficulty around that these days.
Very dangerous game.
The 007 Bond character, though, you are putting this one where in the pantheon? Was this because you said it was better than Mike was saying, but it wasn't good?
I think of Buddy and I ranked it on Cinephile of the Daniel Craig efforts. And that Quantum of Solace was awful. So was Spectre. I've got No Time to Die in the mid range. I love Skyfall. I think of the recent movies. Sam Mendes directed it, of course. American Beauty, great director. And I thought that first 15 minutes was a great action sequence. So I've got it of the Daniel Craig iteration. I've got it mid range.
Can we combine two of your passions, cinema and baseball, right now? Because Tom Cruise attended a Giants playoff game.
Oh, jeez. Listen, that was an offense to Norm Macdonald. The fact that you guys said he looked like Norm, may he rest in peace. Norm Macdonald, I mean, Tom Cruise looked so bloated and just, here's the thing about Tom Cruise. You know, the best performance he's given, We could go around the room saying the best performance he's given. The best performance he's given is when he was on Oprah's couch, jumping up and down like a maniac. It's like, that's who Tom Cruise truly is. That is his authentic self. When he was married to Katie Holmes and he's jumping up and down, giddy like a schoolgirl. Like he's just so out there and he's so demented. Like, I want to do my own stunts. Like, what? Like, you don't need to do this, Tom. No. I want to prove that I can go to Dubai and hang off a skyscraper. I find that guy's act so tired. If he was at the game and I had to interview him, like imagine I had the sideline job, can you go get Tom Cruise? My first question would be, Tom, I just find you incredibly tired.
No.
How are you?
No.
What is happening here?
And then
What
that's
is
not a
happening?
question. You're the nicest
Oh my
man in the
God.
world. You'd go right up to Tom
no.
Cruise, and it wouldn't be even a question. It would just be, I find your act tired, and then you jab a microphone in his face.
I cannot believe you would treat Ethan Hunt that way. Do you know how many times he's saved the world because he cares about that one life?
He was disavowed by the government.
Several times.
What happened, Adnan? Why do you hate Tom Cruise? Other than the fact that he's always someone cocky in every movie he's been in.
Yeah.
I think his best performance was at the end of Tropic Thunder.
He is great in Tropic Thunder. I will give you that. Very, very funny. But that's why he was good. He was just covered in latex. I didn't have to look at his stupid grinning face all the time.
Oh my God.
My issue with this, my issue with Tom Cruise,
what?
I'll admit, is a personal bias. I just think when I watched that Scientology documentary, I was so offended by him as a human being. Like what Scientology has done and perpetrated to people. If you try to leave Scientology, which is a cult, they say they're a religion, other than that, you pay money, you go higher up in this pyramid scheme. The fact that Tom Cruise is complicit in all this, I just have zero respect for him as a human being. So
Okay.
therefore, I get it. Mike's going to say, you got to separate the art from the artist. That is true, but not in this case. I find him so offensive for when he lives his life because he is the face of Scientology. He could change things. You know what? Let's not browbeat Leah Remini for leaving. He's like, no, I love Scientology. I'm making $30 million for Mission Impossible movies. So I just think he's a clown. That's my issue with him.
Man.
I think Mike was going to say we're going to have to cut all of this because we're going to get sued by the Church of Scientology.
Crazy.
No, listen,
Greatest actor of our time.
This is what
I
we
mean,
need from
Have you ever checked your thetan levels, honestly? you haven't. Speak from experience.
I need
What's
Adnan, I need to just shut this down for a second because what's happened here is, and I don't know whether the audience experienced this the way this room did, but we have a number of things happening here and I need to chronicle them. Just give me a second because I think there's something here for Cinephile. Mike and Stugotz were so shocked by the opinion that they sort of they stepped back from their microphone, sort of pawing at their faces, and everyone else simply had their mouth hanging open. The combination of you being such a nice and decent and friendly person and you torching Tom Cruise with zero respect for him as a human being and a clown, I want 5 Cinephile minutes on Adnan Virk, the heel character, just giving you 5 minutes of passionate rip because this opinion of yours is excessive. It's you.
No,
have,
it's not.
You have.
No, it's not. No,
feel
it's a
like I don't
valid.
know you.
It's a valid
I mean-
criticism. Dan, if you've seen the one I'm talking about. I'll find the title here. It's a documentary about Scientology. It came out a few years back. It is thoroughly engrossing,
Going
absorbing,
Clear?
and eye-opening. Going Clear. Thank you, Mike. If you watch Going Clear, you'll go, I'm never watching a Tom Cruise movie. Tom Cruise movie
and
again.
then you watch Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah. It fixes everything. It does.
Do that, man. He's an incredible action star, the greatest ever. That's the greatest action movie ever. I was just talking about how he got his cheekbones done, and you had to assault the man's
It was
character.
unbelievable. I don't understand. It's like seeing Buddha or Gandhi like tear off the robe and like want to fight you with knives. I'm just stunned.
I mean, you're kicking a man when he's down. We're just saying he's fat.
Maybe
That's
he's
it.
looking for love at 60. Anyone can identify with that.
Fat Tom Cruise went from just an obese man to a horrible person. I went to that next level. And thank God when Dan said it's like Buddha taking his robes off, I thought you were going to say it's like Buddha was naked, exposing himself. No. This is as if I'm showing my rage right now. We're going to get Tom Cruise on Cinephile. And Dan, I promise you, I'll rip Tom Cruise. Cody, put it down. Next Cinephile, I'm going to bash Tom Cruise for 5 good minutes. Done.
Well,
Now
you'll
you're
never get him on.
Defaming Buddha, and Cody's not even here.
I'll make a note of that. I'll text him. We'll be okay. Whitty will pass it along. Whitty's now on Team Cinephile.
I mean, you didn't see the bathroom scene in Fallout? Jesus, man.
What do you regard?
Give him his flowers.
I would actually like a ranking from you. We talked the other day about the most famous pizza scene in a movie because we were maintaining that it's Along Came Polly, where Philip Seymour Hoffman is dripping pizza juice on another pizza. But what do you regard as the best fight scene or action scene? Because Mike has claimed that bathroom fight in the last Mission Impossible is the best action scene that he's ever seen. Actually, I don't know which one of the Bond movies it was. Was it Casino Royale?
Casino Royale.
The
with
the first 10 minutes of that movie fight scene was amazing.
You have the street brawl and Point Break, by the way, just to give you a little reminder. Okay, don't forget about that one.
And you also have the single shot sequence in True Detective where a cracked out Russ Cole, announces himself to a nation.
Yeah, listen, Mike was recently on Cinephile to discuss Face Off, so I'll just take any number of the action sequences from Face Off, which is one of our collective favorite movies. There, finding common ground, me and Mike Ryan. I'll take any action sequence Face Off, or just the first hour of Mad Max Fury Road, which is one extended action sequence, and then they go back the other direction, and it's another hour of extended action. I think Mad Max Fury Road, you could take any snippet, it would be pretty special.
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. It's when the action scene is an hour long, and you're choosing from two in the same movie.
The guy with the guitar, though, is ridiculous, right?
No,
he's great. Are you kidding? That guy's awesome.
It bumped me. I'm watching, like, I'm in this intense movie, and randomly a guy's just jamming out on guitar. Like, what is happening?
Really, that's
What
the
is
part
this?
where you
It
weren't
bumped,
you weren't
it bumped
willing
me.
to suspend the disbelief on what you were watching.
Honestly, the trailer for Mad Max Fury Road might be the best movie I've ever seen.
It is. It's so good. Adnan,
awesome.
check out Cinephile. I'd like to see going forward 5 rabid Adnan minutes where he just tortured someone as a human being. It's so jarring. You have left skid marks on
just had
all
bad
our
work done.
faces.
I don't
We
know
are
what to
so
do.
confused.
Did you
all
see
of
how
us.
nice he was being to the people around him?
It's just crazy what he just did.
He's just
to
doing
Tom
that crazy
Cruise.
smile.
It's very strong opinion, Adnan. Thank you for being on with us.
Tom Cruise, fraud. I appreciate you, fellas. Better as Bond. Let's do it.
God damn it, Adnan.
Jesus.
Deity now.
We ever have Grohl on?
No.
I mean, he's
It's been like top of Dan's
No,
list.
I've
for
been
a while.
wanting to have him.
He's hard to. I know he's promoting right now, but he's hard to get.
He's going to be at one of these music festivals.
He's-
that
I
was
mean, the
put
Foo
in front of
Fighters-
us.
yeah,
No,
Foo
but that was put in front of us to go to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was Innings Fest one of those? Because
Yes.
that's right up the show's alley.
Innings
It's
Fest
just
is
a bunch of
great.
Innings
90s
Fest is the
baseball
one.
players.
Yes, Innings Fest is the one.
that any
Dave Grohl
better?
and who else?
You know,
I think
Jake Peavy's hosting a jam session.
It's with Peter Gammons. It's partly his event, isn't it?
Should we ask the audience for places that they would want us to pop up? Because we're going to start doing some of that. And
We should ask Metallark for places that we're allowed to pop up.
that's a good one, though, to just go talk to a bunch of 90s baseball players for no good reason.
The festival poster for Innings Festival, and Sarah Spain's gone to this. It ties in with spring training starting in Arizona, and it's headlined by like Tame Impala and Foo Fighters this year. St. Vincent is there. It's a pretty good lineup, but also on the lineup poster, it's players from our 90s baseball game. Tim Raines is there. I think Sean Casey is there. Like I said, there's a jam session hosted by Jake Peavy. It's a dream.
Dempster's there. Roger Clemens, the Rocket, is there. Rick Sutcliffe, Suddy. Eric Gagne. Oh, we got to go. Johnny Gomes. Johnny Gomes.
Oh, Keith Folk.
We can get all the good stories, though, right? We'll get
Tim Salmon's there.
Well, these guys won't be protecting the stories from the past. Can we get a whole bunch of good 90s baseball stories?
I can't think of my worlds meeting more than watching My Morning Jacket with Russ Ortiz.
I mean, I got to tell you, we went to Tahoe, and Sean Casey embraces these things in a way, like these weekends.
Mayor.
He was mesmerized by a magician who was doing balloon tricks. I mean, it was crazy.
Not great radio or audio.
Well, Casey's going to be there. I mean,
Balloon tricks, though, probably not what we need from him.
how about Tim Raines? When's the last time you seen him rock?
Steve Martin, prop comic.
Someone said that.
Also.
Smash Mouth. You guys saw everybody was sending us the news yesterday. Look, I got Whittingham's attention on this. Their lead singer, Steve Harwell, that we have been obsessed with here for about a week to 10 days, because if you do not know, Smash Mouth had one hit about this time in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s, All Star, and they're still out here playing, and their lead singer was not around recently, and they headed into the pandemic very early to play music, to keep rocking on. And they had a lead singer in a costume pretending to be the other lead singer. And now Steve Harwell has called TMZ or talked to TMZ and announced that he is retiring. And his last thing was to slur through a bad audio set and then make the Hitler sign. So
allegedly, it's debatable.
Is it?
In his defense? A lot of the other stuff was not called into question.
Is there a lot of gray area in the Heil Hitler sign?
It's a good point, Whitney. Whitney's right.
It could just be him pointing.
No, it could be.
There could be.
But no, there's not a lot of gray area. But yes, it could just be that he didn't know what he was doing, and he was just jerking his hand motion and his arm motion in a way that conjures, world war and genocide of a people.
But it could also be that.
It could just be a smash mouth rock and roll lead singer not knowing anything and just making a sign where stiffly waving toward others. But there's not a lot of gray area.
It looked like it.
To Whittingham's point.
It looked like it, right? It looked a lot like that's what he was trying to do.
And then he immediately
but then there's
retired.
That, Laura Ingraham gray area, which is like, wait, I thought I saw what I saw. But then she pivots her hand and makes it a normal wave afterwards. That's the gray area. Because you could say, what do you mean?
That's the gray area. So you've been called out, Whittingham, on your.
Do you know what I'm talking about, the Laura Ingraham?
No.
All right, look it up.
All right, I'm on
Laura Ingraham, RNC.
All right, I'm watching the video right now. I understand your point in defending him just from a legal perspective, just to cover our bases, because he's denying it. But this is not good. It's not good.
Okay, where do you stand on the Laura Ingraham RNC salute?
Have not seen that. I will do my research.
All right. If there's a gray area, it might be this one.
Some Laura Ingrams are making their way. Have you seen what's happening with the Gruden discussion, Stugotz? Because it morphs on the second day. Some people, you know how this stuff always happens around here. Whenever we got one of these big scandals, and you saw it happen yesterday, people don't want you to talk race. Don't talk race. Don't talk race. Gotcha. And then we talk race all over your televisions for 24 hours. You've heard all the opinions. There's very little new at the trough. And then when people go in the next day, you start complaining that they're still talking about it. But the evolution of this story is the Tampa Bay Bucks Ring of Honor. John Gruden has been taken down.
That was quick.
And a lot of people are pointing out, why is Warren Sapp still up there? In other words, what about Chicago? Like, it's all of a sudden people care deeply about the Tampa Bay Bucks Ring of Honor. Out of nowhere, they care about it.
Never thought about it before.
Just because Gruden's name is being taken down.
And it's ethically and morally consistent. The Tampa Bay Bucks Ring of Honor.
It's a very important thing. People care greatly now that the Ring of Honor be morally consistent and we should all be equal and have allowed John Gruden the right to still be honored because his racism and his hate don't have anything to do with why we're honoring him. God damn it.
Across all NFL 32, because take down O.J. Simpson's name from the Ring of Honor in Buffalo.
Is he still up there?
I saw that one about
No,
yesterday.
He has to still be up there, yeah.
Why? What did he do?
Yeah. What did he do?
Is he still
Memorabilia.
up there? Is that innocent till proven guilty? Wait a minute. You're kidding me. You're telling me that
He wanted his stuff
this
back.
can't. No, wait a minute. What you guys are saying cannot be true. O.J. Simpson's name cannot be in the Ring of Honor because I'm actually okay with that. Whataboutism? If you tell me why are you taking John Gruden's down?
He's so proudly displayed in the Wall of Fame. I saw this from JoeBucksFan.com while they were comparison shopping the John Gruden controversy.
Mike, that can't be. You're kidding me. I thought we'd all agree that if they took O.J. Simpson's name out of the Ring of Honor, we'd all sort of be like, yeah, you know what? If they just put up, he did it instead.
Yeah, I'm on the Bills' official website. Their Wall of Fame still lists O.J. Simpson.
You want them to retire a jersey that says guilty?
I mean,
yeah, O.J. Simpson still
founding member of the Wall of Fame. So he is the first name in the Buffalo Bills Hall of Fame. They inducted him in 1980. They don't induct somebody else until 1984.
The thing that happens though now, okay, around these kinds of stories, Stugotz, because I was actually trying to figure out, there haven't been that many of these, but there have been a couple where I'm like, well, how are they going to other sides this one? And John Gruden, I didn't see a whole lot of angles to do it from, Stugotz, because it's like, let's give the other side, it's not that bad. Okay, but it's still bad. Even if you don't think it's that bad, it's still bad. We're in agreement there.
It's bad.
But is there another side? And so one of the things that's happened is Whitlock's going back and forth here with Randy Moss, where Randy Moss is threatening on site to beat the shit out of Jason Whitlock, because Jason Whitlock is saying he doesn't care so much about the opinion of the white man that he would cry on television over it. I am remiss in not asking Bomani about this yesterday because I heard him be so good on it on CNN, but why Randy Moss was crying. And Randy Moss getting to where he got through what he got through to get there, for him to cry on television because of how the betrayal felt to him. A lot of people were beating up on Jason Whitlock because they're like, what are you doing making fun of this dude who's hurt on television? And Whitlock's like, don't cry on television. And that it's performance and that he would never do that. Right. Is Whitlock's side of it. And the way that we keep going back and forth on all of these, wherever it is that they appear, this is an unusual one, Stu. Guys, like, what is there to defend Gruden about? What are you defending if you're defending Gruden? Because it's not even grab him by the pussy, boys will be boys, locker room talk. Like, what are you defending if you're defending John Gruden? And why are you just aligning over there? Because the culture war is such right now that we just line up white, black, wherever it is, or just against each other, wherever it is.
There is no defense, but perhaps it's the cancel culture in general. If there is a defense, like just going back into people's past and picking through their emails and then, I mean,
this isn't cancel culture, though, really?
I agree, Mike. No, this is
okay, but no,
these are emails from 2010 to 2018.
We get accused of being an echo chamber around here and not having dissenting opinion, but there have been a couple of these stories recently where I'm like, well, how is the other side going to be taken on this one? Like, because there's not another side. Like, right. You can't be in a position of leadership and just hating everybody that way.
I've seen the other side. The Republican talking points on this, the conservative talking points on this are, well, what if you mic the players? Well, what about that halftime show? It's all out there. It's a very clear difference. John Gruden is hired as a leader of men. He has a locker room that he has to rally, and there are people that he is in that locker room that he is insulted with his hateful speech.
Losing your job is a very normal consequence of bad behavior. It's not like he's getting, burned at the stake and where everyone's taking all his money away from him. He still has millions of dollars, a nice house, a family. Like, he can go live his life. But he just can't be the coach of the Raiders anymore.
He's covered in shame. And this, I still am super curious, and we will talk to Sally Jenkins about this shortly, about how the information got to us. And what Bomani was saying yesterday was a slow leak, that they were trying to get Gruden out without this coming out. So the first thing, and he was going to survive the DeMaurice Smith thing. He was going to survive that. Right. But there were things last week that were being slow leaked, and then the avalanche just hit, and he immediately resigned. And the way he resigned, can we address this one for a second? Because we skipped past it yesterday. Woo, that paragraph was weak. Like, that's just like, hey, I'm sorry, I really never meant to offend any or hurt anybody. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, you were somebody
you wanted more
you were someone who was intolerant.
You expect too much, though, Dan.
Well, but I expect too much. A guy just resigned a very public job that has paid him a lot of money and has made him a lot of money with the, with the bodies of the people in that sport.
You wanted more there. I understand it, but consider the person we're talking about and what we now know about that person. You think he's going to give you more?
Oh, I'm just saying he's running out the side door as quickly as quickly as possible. And even the statement didn't have much care in it. It was just
perhaps because he doesn't care,
You don't think he cares?
Well, I think he cares about the reaction to what it is he wrote. But when you're that comfortable for 8 years writing what you wrote and hitting send to a team president, I'm not certain if he cares. I honestly, I don't know. I don't know him well enough. None of us do.
There is another story that has made its way in from this in the journalism world, and I don't know how much you care about this either, because I've seen precious little caring about journalism as it's fallen apart in the last 20 years. But because we've got some gotcha in here on Adam Schefter, and I always wonder how it is that these insiders can do that job that well, where they're beating the local beat reporters on all their stories because they're so plugged in all over the league. And part of those emails show Adam Schefter sending to Bruce Allen, calling him Mr. Editor, and sending some copy his way to sort of proofread it and see if there was anything objectionable in there on something that he wrote. What are your thoughts there, Stugotz?
Man, I like Adam a lot, but that doesn't seem to me the way that Adam Schefter should be doing his job. Like, no, do not give the guy the benefit of the doubt to proofread something that you're about to report. Your job is to be a reporter, and the person that you're doing the reporting about should not have the ability to proofread it.
I think a lot of journalists have probably gone to a source to show them what they wrote, portions of what they wrote, if they want to make sure that a quote is accurate or, the phrasing of a line is accurate.
I've done that.
Right. I think that is standard practice. Sending what this email says is that he sent an entire unpublished draft to Bruce Allen and called him Mr. Editor and said to tweak whatever he wanted to tweak. That is not journalistic practice. That is not good. That is not good journalism.
But it is insider journalism. This is how the sausage gets made when you get a Woj bomb, when you have Schefter set to mobile alerts. It's a give and take. You use me for your story, and when you waive your backup quarterback, I'm the first with it. It's all about relationships. All about relationships, and this is how you get your Shams tweet alerting you about a signing before even the signing knows.
Mike, you're right, but Adam Schefter and Woj and Shams, they're all about credibility, and this makes you question their credibility a little bit. There was
nothing surprising about that.
Really?
The only shocking part about it was him calling him Mr. Editor, and that's a chummy friend thing by someone who has very good relationships, because that's why they're very good at their job.
I agree with everything Mike said. It's not surprising, but I would say insider journalism should have like the biggest air quotes around it, because insider journalism is not the same as you reading a investigative story by a reporter who is trying to actually get accurate information and disseminate it, and isn't going to show the president of a team or an organization that they cover the information and say, hey, let me know what I should change.
But it feels like something you would do to establish, like you're young, you're trying to break into the business, and you're trying to form relationships. You're still doing it after all these years, after all the credibility you've amassed?
We've built these monsters. Be first.
I know.
It's most important. I know the difference between Seth Wickersham's investigative journalism and Adam Schefter's insider journalism. I know it's all for show. I know it's all flash paper. He's also done some very credible journalism work. But that's the give and take of the insider. Dan, you do you agree?
I think it's fascinating, but I also think that the audience doesn't want to care about all of journalism's layers that way. And I think I bore the audience sometime, because when I'm watching that, I've always been curious. How does Woj do that? Because look, man, CAA has run sports for a while. These agents are all getting their fingerprints everywhere. It's a very hard thing when you've got local community papers, multiple ones covering their team, and they get beat on all the stories by these guys.
Right.
Rare do any of these stories break in the markets. These guys, the Jay Glazers, I've always been fascinated by it, because Jay Glazer has these relationships with the players. And I'm like, how do they know this much, where they're beating an army of reporters all over the country on every story? Those reporters can't do that. That's not allowed in the world of those reporters. But ESPN can traffic in this place because they're partners with the teams. They're trying to do journalism, but it doesn't have to be journalism the way newspapers do journalism, because that's a journalism that's the standard of, no, you don't do that. What Schefter did, no,
Right.
you do not allow Bruce Allen to control. That's propaganda. Like, what do you, that's.
Don't you wonder what's not being reported?
But that's all the time. But the transaction that's been made, Stugotz, is Stephen A. Smith goes through all the worlds. And when he's out here saying that Kyrie Irving will be traded for a bag of cookies, people are objecting like, you don't have any sources on that. That can't be a real thing. And he's saying that he knows. And Stephen A. comes in and out of both of the worlds. But he's an entertainer now. He's somebody, as those ratings go down, you'll hear more of, and I think the Chiefs are done. If those ratings start going down, his job is to get them back up. It ain't journalism that's going to get him back up. It's Stephen A. being an entertainer.
I don't know if the audience cares about it or not. Like, that's fine if you do, fine if you don't. But I think it still warrants some criticism when you find out that this is something that's happening. And like, I think you could also look at the Shams article yesterday about Kyrie Irving as an example of using these sources to tell a story and then, leaving them anonymous basically, and then putting out whatever spin Kyrie Irving or his camp want you to put out and getting it published on a credible website.
But this is the trade, is what I'm saying. Like, some of these things are ethical breaches according to old journalism, but this is a new transaction, new journalism, different journalism by ESPN with its partners, Fox with its partners. Like, we are all in bed together there, and that's how the machine ends up working. That story, I was surprised that story, it was coming out in dribs and drabs with Chris Mortensen, but I was surprised that story appeared in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. And I'm guessing it's because it had so much breadth that someone couldn't break it. They needed newspapers to lend the credibility of, this isn't a report, here are all the words, because that leak was meant to cause what it caused. And those entities, whether you like them or not, are trying to do journalism fairly. I know both of them have their own politics and their own leanings. What Adam Schefter does for a living is inside journalism, around journalism, but in a business partnership with Bob Kraft on an app,
Right.
with his corporation, in a business partnership with the NFL. Those conflicts can't exist in a newspaper. They're not allowed to exist, but that's not how we treat the coverage of this. This is Adam Schefter is your information guy, and part of getting information is having really good relationships with really good sources.
I think watering down journalism and like what it is and what it should be is just a massive problem we have in society, not with just sports, but with the way that reporters of politics get their information and then share it. And it has huge consequences. So I think that whether or not it's something that we're okay with as sports fans, because we know that ESPN and the NFL have a partnership, and so there is going to be a degree of propaganda there, it's still, when you see someone like Adam Schefter or any insider, quote unquote, sending an article to a source and calling them Mr. Editor, like, it's bad. It's a bad look, and it deserves some criticism.
It seems like the way I would do it. And if that's the way I would do it, it's bad.
I think that's a good, hard and fast journalism rule. Put it on the poll, Whittingham, please. Is it a good journalism rule? If you do it the way Stugotz would do it, that's a bad way to do it. There are a lot of, the writing is on the high end of television writing. It's never been better. And these guys who are in our universe, the Schurs and the McKays, you'd be dazzled all the time. It's a different kind of writing. Funny writing is even. Sorkin, his funny's probably not your funny, Mike. Sorkin's.
I don't think he's very funny. Like there is stuff where in The West Wing it's like, oh, that was funny, but it's not designed to be funny.
I feel like if I say something is funny, Sorkin would turn to me and like be like, "What is funny?" and just try to deconstruct. It's just. I come away with now watching Sorkin stuff. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm out. This is way too Sorkin-y for me. I just can't go on.
It's unlike anything else.
Which is why I shut off The West Wing. I just stopped that reunion special because enough. Like, he may feel like he's in his bag. I'm watching and I'm like, get over yourself.
But it wasn't even anything to do with like that show was literally a repurposed version of a West Wing episode. There was no new writing
It
there.
was black and white.
It was, yeah.
And it was actors being. It was a lot of rolled up papers and
Yeah.
It made you hate Hollywood.
made me hate Hollywood.
Like you take the camera from one end of the stage to the
Yeah.
other. We're into a new set piece.
But on top of that, mask, and we have to show everybody how responsible while
Yeah.
we're doing this great service, while we're doing this for a cause. There is also a second cause, maybe even a third cause: us. It's just, I saw that. I'm like, wow, Trump's gonna get reelected. It's just, this has done far too much damage. And
It's-
it was actually like setting out to do the exact opposite. I'm like, you're hurting more than helping.
But
bro.
it's playing to a base though. No Republicans are watching that going.
Oh, but Mike's
"Oh,
so
I find
right.
this
No, but
unctuous."
Mike's so right about that. For all the recoil that there has been against the media, and you know that one of the great heartbreaks of my lifetime is that the lack of subtlety in Trump could be more popular than my chosen profession by leaps and bounds, where he can run on a platform of fake news media and chop the legs out from the news media. Like, it's the thing I cared about my whole life was awfully weak for him to be the one to be able to do it. This relationship that Mike has with the televised Sorkin, this is what Republicans hate. All of the pretension of the liberal elites as Harvey Weinstein is dabbling in all sorts of deviant, immoral behavior. Like that disconnect, that Mike is absolutely right when that is not made for the same people who are watching, who have made Gutman or whatever that guy is who's doing late night comedy now on Fox.
Gutfeld?
Such a great name. It's like a fake name. I'd create that in fiction. Gutfeld is what I would create in fiction for a name for that show.
Fine. $10.
I'm glad you have a contribution in the Sorkin segment, Stugotz. I'm actually going through this right now because Tarantino is another guy that relies on his tropes far too often, and he knows his base will eat that shit up.
Except he says the reason he's going to stop making films is because no director has ever gotten better at his age. It's an interesting bit of self-awareness on Tarantino if he can actually hold out that long from Hollywood's temptations as somebody who comes from the Weinstein empire.
I like his line of thought, and I think it actually applies to him because he has a very distinct style that he doesn't depart from. And it was in reading his expansion on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that I was so grateful that his true vision had to be edited for screen. Because if you just give this person free reign in that medium, like there's this chapter on Brad Pitt's character where he just goes full nerd onto Japanese cinema and he crafts a part of Brad Pitt's character that's not a part of the ethos of that character. It has nothing to do with it. It's just diarrhea on a page from Quentin Tarantino because he's just saying things that he's into. And that's, Quentin Tarantino is a very selfish filmmaker. It has to be his way, the same way that Aaron Sorkin is a very selfish writer, but one of the most selfish people in Hollywood. Aaron Sorkin doesn't want other actors to actually interpret what he's saying. No, I'll tell you what you're saying.
Well, that's one of the things that comes up, that if you check out the South Beach sessions from earlier this week, you will see that comes up. You don't change a syllable of dialogue on Sorkin, Rob Lowe said.
No, famously with Aaron Sorkin, that's the deal. And I think it applies to Quentin Tarantino, that rule. Of course, he's going to have that belief fortified because, hell, he came up with a thought. But it's not the same for many other filmmakers. Ridley Scott, I feel like, is one of these filmmakers that's getting better with age, taking more chances, doing different things.
Are you saying that Sam Seaborn could not just ad-lib and do what he wanted to do? Like, what's the point of having those great actors and actresses if they can't do what they're
Mike,
supposed to do?
You're blaspheming. Stugotz raves about the West Wing.
I love it.
The best.
Raves about, and it's a stunner for Stugotz because
he likes Tango and Cash. And what I'm telling you is Aaron Sorkin at this point right now, he's kind of feeling like a campy version of Aaron Sorkin.
No, but I mean, Stugotz is referencing, Aaron Sorkin's kind of original work. I mean, A Few Good Men is his original work, but on television, The West Wing is his original work. It's from the late 90s. The show actually looks old. If you go back and watch it on Netflix, it looks old. I love it just because I love the subject matter and the overwrought dialogue that you and Dan are objecting to, Mike. But it is an older show, and like it's like writers, it's thinkers. Like I agree with Mike. I'm stunned that you like it that much.
I love it. It's fantastic TV, and the writing is amazing on it. I'm marveling at the fact that you have Allison Janney, that you have Rob Lowe, that you have Bradley Whitmore, that you have some great actors,
Arden Sheen.
and they can't stray away from Aaron Sorkin's script whatsoever.
Not a syllable.
That's why I brought it up, because he mentioned Rob Lowe.
Not a syllable.
And he has power over casting. He has a power that screenwriters don't necessarily have in Hollywood. He's earned it. He's got the hardware to back it up. But at this point, he has a lot of go-tos.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And it's just like, relax. He's just getting up to get a bagel. We don't need to make this a whole thing. It's just overdone for me.
Exhausting.
I'll still watch him. He's a screenwriter. He's one of those people. Like Fincher, the same way. Like, I don't care how heavy-handed we'll get. Same thing with Tarantino. I'm going to give you the shot because I was a fan of yours at one point. But I'm also going to give myself the out to be like, okay, you're just parodying yourself.
Doesn't everyone have tropes though? Like Scorsese has used the same Rolling Stones song in like 6 different movies.
Yeah.
Exhausting is an interesting word for Mike to use because, of course, as you age, I mean, people will hit me with this criticism when they don't like what I've been doing for 20 years here because, of course, I'm going to fall back on talking 4 hours a day on some of the things I've always talked about, and it is where people can stop growing by degrees. But Mike is here telling you Ridley Scott is growing. Now, he's younger than these people, but it's one of the reasons that I admire Adam McKay so much as an artist. Beyond him being
Ridley Scott's 83.
What?
He's younger than some.
That is not unbelievable. I had no idea that Ridley Scott
Do you still
was
think
that
he's the
old.
same guy from Alien?
How is it? How I did not know that he
Who
was
did you
anything.
think Ridley Scott was?
The guy who did the movie that
Gladiator? You did Gladiator. Who did you, what were you going to say? I'm sorry for stopping you.
who am I confusing? Didn't you just say that among
Travis Scott?
among the among the directors that you love, Ridley Scott was somebody whose new work you will always check in on? Isn't that
I will
something
always
that-
check in on him, Fincher, Tarantino, just the same. But no, Ridley Scott's famously a dinosaur. And so it's actually really exciting that he tries new things out. And the thing about watching Ridley Scott films, and there's one coming out this weekend, The Last Duel, which is Damon and Affleck are working together in the writer's room. They brought in a really good screenwriter. She did really good work on this script to make it more robust and make the women in this film a lot more interesting and have her perspective. They tell the story from multiple perspectives. Ridley Scott is famously at the end of his career, and he is not doing what Tarantino is doing. In fact, he is just upping the art and the stories he wants to put out there because he realizes that he doesn't have that much time left, which is the total opposite of how you had it.
Were you thinking about Tony Scott or?
I'll tell you what I was
He's no
thinking.
longer. He's
R.I.P.
dead. Yeah.
Tragic.
I thought, did Ridley Scott do Interstellar?
That was Christopher Nolan.
Okay, that was the mistake.
Christopher
that I was
Nolan's
making.
younger than everybody else.
That's the mistake that I was making. That I thought that Ridley Scott was and I couldn't have imagined that Interstellar was being done by an 83-year-old.
Well, Nolan's got to be is getting into that Sorkin territory where he has these tropes that he likes to lean on a lot, and this was a shot across the bow. I warned Christopher Nolan after Tenet. Like, bottom's starting to fall out here a little bit. You got to get this shit in line because you're getting a little too Nolan-y. And so he needs to pull it back some. But you make great movies and you get people into the box office, which is obviously a big thing for Christopher Nolan. He only wants his movies in a cinema. You're going to get power that other filmmakers don't get. That's really good for some, but it could also be really bad because editors and people want to paint movie execs as these villains that stand in the way of dreams, but sometimes having someone separate from the actual art that's being created, giving feedback can be a really good thing.
Or just one asshole friend who's like, Christopher, calm down.
You need an asshole friend to tell you that shirt looks ridiculous. I could have used that today.
Can you tell me what it is? I'd like to hear a little more about what you were saying, Tarantino's editor. I did not know what that is. That
No. Like Tarantino could use an editor, but Tarantino, he does have an editor, but it's handpicked. Like he's obviously over the editor. All directors are in the editing process, but you could use Tarantino's movies early on. He got pushback from studios early on, and then Pulp Fiction hit, and he's like, never again will I ever do any of that. Tarantino has been quoted in the Joe Rogan interview. Reservoir Dogs wouldn't have been what it was after the success of True Romance and his contribution to that film. He just wanted to take the money and do things his own way. And someone, I believe is Harvey Weinstein, was telling him, hey, hold on, let's go through proper Hollywood channels, and I think we can get your career to where it believes, rather than you letting yourself down because you don't have all the tools at your disposal. Sometimes these things can be an asset.
Exhausting is such a good word on Sorkin, though, because I believe that's as talented as writing gets, not just in television, just writing. He's an amazing writer, and I can't imagine how crazy you have to be that particular about every word in a script or song where that's the level that you've gone to. But Mike Ryan is just smearing here, taking out legendary artists who are better at the creating of things than most people are at creating anything. And Mike's like, you're exhausting. You get out of here. Who's somebody else, somewhere else, so good at what they do that you simply get exhausted because you can't keep up with just sentence after sentence of, eloquence and a tapestry hitting you in the face?
Tom Brady.
I think the unprecedented nature of Tom Brady will always make it interesting. But as much as I like tennis, I did get bored when Federer was just doing it all the time. Having two other guys was really interesting until it became, oh, well, now it's just three guys and they'll just take turns. But that went on for so long that even that got kind of boring, to the point that you're like, oh, Medvedev, this is exciting.
Right.
Tsitsipas, this is exciting.
We needed new young blood. We needed a fourth and fifth guy, and they needed to be young.
Yeah, the old guys got to get slayed. You got to slay the dragon.
Didn't Vladimir Klitschko ruin boxing for exactly this reason?
Perfect. That is perfect, Witty. Yeah, he was so boring. He ruined the heavyweight division by being so dominantly boring. We were talking earlier this week about how that big heavyweight fight, you had the excitement because there is nothing. You'll have super fights in boxing, but there'll be two little guys fighting. Nothing gets the attention and the energy of two massive guys that can knock you out with literally any punch. Nothing does that like heavyweight boxing. When people think about the glory days of boxing, is when the heavyweights had it cooking. And Klitschko ruined all of that. Ali feels a little bit more diluted just because Klitschko lived.
Lennox Lewis ruined it before Klitschko
His mere
ruined
existence.
it.
Yeah, ruined it. I don't even like Creed as much because Klitschko had fights out there. But Fury knocked Klitschko out of the picture for us. And that was a very exciting time. And it was a free fight to watch because that's where Klitschko was at that point.
But now there's only one fight.
Yeah.
And there'll be a clamoring. We need new boxers.
You're talking about the one fight being Jake Paul versus Floyd Mayweather.
Bingo.
Right?
Yes.
We'll get some journalism expertise here from someone who's a little more credible and qualified about the principles of these things than Stugotz. Sally Jenkins of the Washington Post.
Isn't that everyone? I mean,
her city, her football franchise is at the center of this mushroom cloud because it was the investigation into the Washington football team toxic work environment that ensnared John Gruden. So, Sally, thank you for making the time for us. We'll get to the Schefter stuff with you in a second, but Gruden those emails end up flashing in your life, and Sally Jenkins thinks what?
I think it was inevitable. I mean, these guys have been casually sort of tossing these terms around for so long in the game. It was inevitable that at some point somebody was going to go kaboom, you know? It wasn't shocking, to be honest. The main thing that strikes you is that John Gruden and Bruce Allen are, they literally grew up in football. they've been around. Everyone's known them since they were practically boys, right? So they're very, very, very known quantities inside the game. And everyone's just been sort of winking and playing along with, the way they do business and the way they talk about people.
What's going to come out on the Washington football team, Sally? How is it? Can you explain to us how it is that the Washington football team has an investigation ongoing and we don't know what's going on there and there is no paper trail, but over here, John Gruden gets taken out by what's happening over here more quietly?
Look, I think there are so many machinations behind the scenes by the league. They're dealing with, a really, really litigious owner who can get very ugly very quickly. You're talking about other owners who don't necessarily want their private business washed out in public. I think there's so many different cross dynamics going on with the Washington Football Club that it's difficult to know who's behind these emails. First of all, it appears it's not the league, but we don't know exactly who it is. We don't know what their motive was. That's a real mystery wrapped in an enigma. But I do think that the central point is that I think the league underneath it all would love nothing better than to divest itself of Dan Snyder.
Do you have a theory on the leak? You say the NFL, you're believing the NFL when they say, because I was looking for motive on who's leaking that, and I thought they want to get Gruden out of there before that gets any worse than it already is, because they've already got people resigning in their front office months ago.
I mean, there's 4 or 5 possibilities for the source of those emails. I don't necessarily believe the NFL did it, because look at the mountain of trouble it's causing the league. The league really wanted the Washington football investigation to go away quietly now. They wanted a season in Washington that was more positive than the seasons of the past. So I'm inclined to think it wasn't the league. I might be naive in that. I really don't have any special insight there. I just know the dynamics, again, are very complicated and changing.
You mentioned there are 4 or 5 possibilities. What are they? Who are they?
I mean, I suppose one could be someone discontented within Beth Wilkinson's investigation, someone discontented who was privy to some of the report from the NFLPA, which now is petitioning for the release of all the emails. One potentiality is someone from the league. One potentiality is someone from the Washington Football Club that wanted revenge on Bruce Allen, and John Gruden got caught in the crosshairs, or wanted revenge for some reason on John Gruden, and Bruce Allen got caught in the crosshairs. There's at least 4, and there's probably others that are potential leakers as well. And I'm not when I say their names, I'm not saying there's a stronger possibility of one than the other. I'm just saying I think there's at least, to me, 4 to 5 places this could be coming from.
How do you arrive in a place, Sally, where this is being done so freely and no one is saying anything about it?
The league's behavior here all along has been so buttoned up. And I think it's because the ugliness with Dan Snyder, the ugly that he can get to very quickly, as you've seen in his suits with his partners and investors, got so ugly so quickly. I think the league knows who it's dealing with, and so it's really trying to keep it all tamped very down. I think that's the main thing, and that's why I'm not necessarily convinced these came from the league.
Can you explain to us where Daniel Snyder resides right now, what the purgatory is? Because he's not in charge, but he kind of is in charge. It's just an agreement where, okay, we're going to put this off to the side. Explain it to me, because I don't know. Daniel Snyder still owns the team and probably still has the power, even though publicly he's said to not have the power, correct?
So, I can only go on my impression. I've only been out there once so far this season. My impression is the league is almost running the team. I don't think Dan Snyder is running the team really on a day-to-day basis. I think the team is almost sort of on automatic pilot a little bit. They're being well run interiorly, at least from my standpoint. The Rivera regime is more organized than other clubhouses have been, and they're they're a little more forthcoming than teams have been in the past. But my impression is that Dan Snyder is sort of sitting somewhere off to the side, waiting for the clock to tick when he can come back in and get his paws back on things again. I don't see evidence that he's directly manipulating things right now.
Sally, you come from a family of journalists. And you come from traditional journalism. Your father took it very seriously, even though he wrote funny, and you take it just as seriously. When I tell you that the league wants Snyder out, you work at the Washington Post. Bezos owns the Washington Post. Bezos wants the Washington football team. Where do your journalistic conflicts reside in all of that?
Oh, I mean, look, I stay away from all of them in the sense of, I don't know Jeff Bezos. I don't really know Dan Snyder. I think I haven't talked to Dan Snyder directly in, 2-3 years. My interactions with him I've not found him completely on the level or candid. I can't say the same about Jeff Bezos because I don't really have interactions with him. And I don't know for a fact that Bezos does want the Washington Football Club. That's not anything that I've particularly heard in my circles. So that's where I would start. That's sort of I think, look, regardless though of the situation, you report without fear or favor, you simply report what's what, and you try to sort out who's on the level and go with that.
And that brings us to Adam Schefter, because you report without fear or favor. Obviously, sending an email to a team executive that calls him Mr. Editor, that's favor, and allowing him to edit it, that's favor. And but I was just saying before you came on here that ESPN also has some conflicts with its business partners, and insiders are journalists, but they're journalists not at the objective rate where you're trying to do journalism.
Yeah, I mean, the way I was taught in the business, if you feel conflicted, that's a conflict. If you're trying to define what a conflict is, it's if you feel conflicted in your duties, if you're inclined to pull a punch. And so, that's where I would start broadly. And then more specifically, Adam Schefter's a great reporter. He gets a lot of stuff. He really does. And his sources have a lot of trust in him. And it's a very fine line that he walks there. I can understand the impulse to let someone like Bruce Allen, who's in a position to have information, look over something you're writing for the sake of accuracy, but to let him edit it necessarily, or to show him the whole thing, that's something I would not have done, to just turn over an entire piece to somebody. I don't think that is really what my bosses would expect of me, and so I would not do it. But I think all of us have certainly shown wording to other people to make sure that we're right, that we're accurate, that we're not warping something or overstating something.
I find interesting the changes in journalism, Sally, because I think the toothpaste is out of the tube on this one. There are very few people doing it now your way, at very few newspapers in the world taking it with that kind of integrity. It's shifted so much toward entertainment. The work that you're doing is great, but it's different than what we're talking about here. Your standard, you're holding on to a standard that it feels like America has rejected.
Well, I have to say this about Adam Schefter. If you look at the bulk of his work, is he offering up information that is accurate and helpful and informative to the reader? And I think the overall question to that is yes. I think you learn a lot from Adam Schefter, and you learn a lot that's interesting from Adam Schefter. So, what his personal methods are in going about that, I don't know. I know his information is almost invariably solid, and how he's cultivating his relationships, that's between him and the people he works with. I know he's very respected by a lot of people inside football, which is how he gets his information. Look, one of the things about covering the NFL is, or any beat really, is you talk to a lot of people off the record, and their names and their direct quotes never wind up in the paper or in the piece that you're doing. A lot of times you're just informed by people who never really appear. And you do that because you want to make sure you're correct. And so again, we've seen lots of journalism sins, and I've committed a couple of them myself. I don't view Adam Schefter's, this thing with Adam Schefter today, I don't view that as like some grand transgression the way others do. I think the bulk of his career, the bulk of his work is pretty excellent.
For those people who don't do paywalls, because I saw this, a lot of people wanted that athletic story on Kyrie that Shams did that had a lot of information in it, but people weren't willing to go over the paywall. What did you write about today, Sally? Because the Gruden thing moved you to write. What was the angle that you chose to take?
Well, I was really struck by how incubated in traditional establishment football circles Gruden always was. You know, he's born in Sandusky, you know, home of Newt Rockne. He was reared at Notre Dame, where his dad was an assistant coach to Dan Devine. You know, as a young assistant, he's with the two most iconic coaching tree franchises there are, the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. And it's hard to name two coaching trees that spread more men around the league, right? And so I just was looking at just how he was kind of seeded and grown inside the game. He's the ultimate insider. And the idea that Gruden's conduct would come as a surprise to anyone inside the NFL and be appalling to them suddenly now after all these years is absurd. They've known for a long time exactly how he conducted himself around these subjects.
Sally, if I just want to clarify this because it seems like you're saying it was well known what Bruce Allen and John Gruden were like, how they've acted. We've known them their whole lives, and if so, why weren't people digging into what it is they were doing as they were doing it? Why did we wait so long on them?
Because they were all participating in it. You know, the people that he corresponded with. You know, I think that there's a real fear out there about who else he's corresponded with in those 650,000 emails. You know, Bruce Allen's communications with people, John Gruden's communications with people. My point is, I think a lot of men in the league have talked this way and have held these attitudes for a long, long time. And people just didn't really admit it openly. But behind the doors of taverns and stuff, I think that's how they have interacted with each other. I think there's exceptions like Bruce Arians. I think there's some great exceptions. I don't think like a Bruce Arians would necessarily, I mean, like, first of all, who uses the word queers these days that way anyway, right? I mean, that is such a meathead frat boy way to talk. It's archaic by any standard, and it's an earmark of a certain attitude. But unfortunately, I think it's an earmark of a certain old school attitude that's still very much alive inside the NFL. And I think it's exactly why you don't see more promotions of Black coaches and more Black coaches hired as head coaches. You know, bingo, there it is. It's right there.
Is it fair to say, Sally, because you like overarching themes and you know how America is represented by sports and how our sports represent America, is it fair to take one guy, and I see the pipeline, the roots that you're making. This guy was born and bred in football, grew through football to the atrophied state that he was in, and still refers to people as queers because this football pipelined him, formed him, shaped him. And so you're saying this is unsurprising. Of course, this is the jewel that would belch out. Is it fair to do that based on one man's scandal?
You know, probably not. You know, life isn't fair though, right? That's what football teaches. You know, you hitch up your britches and you deal with that. Life's not fair. You know, look, should he become the poster boy for this? You know, alone? Probably not. He got caught in something for some reason that we're still trying to divine here. You know, why was he a target of this? You know, it's possible that his attitudes on this really are worse than other people's in the league, but I'm not. I don't think that. You know, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, why Gruden, right?
Oh, I just think that just like sports ends up representing everything that happens in America, of course, the starting place on this is them looking under the carpets in Washington and finding the hashtag Me Too stuff that they had to react to poorly and late because they didn't know how to react to it. The league's not equipped for any of this stuff. And so now America's making its way into these playpens, and everyone is running scattershot scared because God knows how behind all these people were, Sally. God knows what secrets they're. I mean, 650,000 emails. He can't be the only one out here disparaging Michael Sam, right? Like it.
Right.
I don't know what's coming next, but it seems like we're going to see the underbelly of this thing, and that Gruden's just the first casualty. Do you think I'm wrong on that?
I think it's possible that we see more out of this, but I think someone wrote yesterday that the NFL is trying to treat this like radioactive waste and sort of bury it underground under, thousands of pounds of concrete. It's really hard to say which way this thing turns now, but I do think that the league has a larger reckoning than just with John Gruden. I think you're correct about that. I think that there may be some other coaches or executives that find themselves caught up in this thing and get their sleeve caught in the meat grinder.
Sally, thank you for being on with us. Always good catching up with you.
Is that real journalism? Because
no, but it's journalism that we consume. He's giving us information that we need and we want, and we covet. To be honest with you, you just don't know if you're getting all of it.
I think real journalism, to label it as real journalism, is dicey, because I fully believe real journalism to be accurate journalism. And we should actually tell the people what the actual report was that Adam Schefter put out there. This wasn't a transaction piece, because it'd be hard to dispute, Washington football team trades Kirk Cousins to Minnesota Vikings. And you can understand why he'd want Bruce Allen's side of that. But I think you were showing me during the show, Jess, that it was a ratification of the NFLPA and NFL agreement.
Right. This was during the lockout, it appears, in 2011. And so the article in question that is in this LA Times piece about Schefter sending the email with an unpublished draft to Bruce Allen the title is Sources, Sides Eye, July 21st Ratification. So this article is about basically the fight between the NFL and the NFLPA, just kind of giving more information about what's going on behind the scenes. So it's not like a so-and-so is cut from sources.
I think it's the casual nature in which he delivered it, Mike. That plays into it. Mr. Editor, they have a relationship. They're chummy. There's a friendship there. And I understand, Mike, you're right. First off, I'm telling you.
But you're just seeing a word.
Mike, he's a salesman, okay?
Yeah.
These are accounts to him. Each team is an account to him, okay? He has to form relationships within each of these teams at the highest level possible, and no one has done it better than Adam Schefter. I'm fine with it, okay? But I'm not the person to be asking. Schefter gives me what I need. He gives me what I want, and now I'm questioning whether I get all of it or not. But I don't really care, because he's still giving me what it is that I want.
But wait a minute. Your opinion has changed from what you gave us 10 minutes ago, where
I've had time to think about it.
You were the strongest of all of us. You and Jess were the strongest of all of us, condemning it, saying that it's wrong, it's a bad look.
I have the ability to listen to others, and I've listened to what Mike has said and to what Chris has said, and there is a difference between what you've said, quite frankly. There's a difference between what Adam Schefter does and how he goes about getting his news and what Sally Jenkins does.
Just what is, because we haven't actually said it yet, what is your main issue with how Schefter went about this?
Well, I think my main issue is sending an unpublished draft to the president of an NFL team and then putting out a piece which you are purporting is objective and accurate, when if the final editing responsibilities were given to someone who has skin in the game, those things are at odds.
But do we know what specifically Bruce Allen is crafting there? Because it could just be actual articles of this ratification, and Adam Schefter wants to make sure it's accurate. And we see Mr. Editor, we don't know the context behind that. We can assume it's chummy and networking, or it could be what Chris Whittingham was telling me during one of the segments today, which is Bruce Allen could have just been writing him all the time because of inaccuracies.
Yeah, it could just be an incredibly particular person where if you get the slightest bit of a sentence wrong, he's calling you an hour after
Bruce Allen is Aaron Sorkin now.
Yes.
Every syllable has to just be
Bruce
so.
Allen is the president of an NFL team. He's not someone who's like a great editor who's Schefter, a mentor to Adam Schefter, who he wants to proofread something in case he gets something wrong. Like he has a vested interest in what's published.
What I left out is I'm also a phony.
Well,
but
we know
I,
that.
I understand Jess's point. I understand Jesse's
Thanks.
point, which is like the framing of this. Like what you're objecting to, Jess, is Adam Schefter and his reporting frames the public's point of view about the thing that he is reporting on. And if that is not two-sided, then I understand there being like kind of an objection to that. But I think what Mike and I feel is almost like we understand how this sausage is made, and so we know we're only getting a certain perspective on it, unless in the article it says, well, also on the other side, here is this perspective. But I think we kind of understand when Washington is out there trying to frame of course they're trying to frame it from their perspective.
If I may, because it is interesting to me that the one holding on to the truest journalistic printed ideals is the youngest one, is Jessica, who came through Sports Illustrated and is younger than any of us.
I was with her 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and then you pivoted, but I find it interesting because as I look at the macro of what is happening to journalism in America, right? One of the great heartbreaks of my life is that people don't care about these distinctions enough, that today there aren't a lot of differences being made between whatever's on Facebook and whatever the New York Times puts out, that those lines have been blurred, and they were blurred by an orange man with a hatchet who did it with no grace. It's my great professional lament, but America doesn't care about these distinctions. The space for Jessica here is shrinking and shrinking because the people have spoken, like you two just did, who came up in this market with me trying to apply that journalism sensibility of this is rigid morality. Rigid morality. You do not send something for editing. There might be misunderstandings here, but you can do plenty of things without doing that. That is universally, in what I grew up in, a breach. But it's all changed. All of it has changed, and it's changed so that Jessica's opinion is a very small one shouted into a well.
Well, I'm not trying to be like Walter Cronkite over here either, but I have been on the labor side of two different publications that have unionized, and I've seen that in these newsrooms, the journalists who do the work want to be able to do the work without having to have a CEO of their company or a sponsor or someone who's paying for ads on the site have a say in what they publish. Like, journalists want independence and are fighting for it at a lot of these publications. And so to see, at the top of ESPN, Adam Schefter is now sending something to a president of a football team to proofread it. Like, I don't think that's the norm, and people shouldn't expect that that's the norm, because this is why we have distrust. This is why when your average person reads the news, they distrust what they're reading because you wonder, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? And in this case, it's coming from someone with a position of power. In the story, we don't know if Bruce Allen had a say in what was published. We don't know if he changed anything, but you can cast doubt on what's being written here. And in this story, which is about the NFLPA ratification, if someone has a say in what's being written and that person is coming from the side of ownership, did Adam Schefter also send this article to someone who's coming from the labor side? And is this why the framing of these stories tends to come from the side of ownership? We don't know any of that, and we're now casting doubt on what we're reading.
It's where you get compromised on this stuff, and it's why the standard matters, and it's why it's the great heartbreak of my professional career that America doesn't seem to care anymore about that stuff. They're not making those distinctions. Never mind on facts. Between how much something needs to be vetted when that's your standard, Jessica, to print something, anything, how your standard has to be so very high when you would look at this and be sort of disgusted by it from that standard. People doing that kind of work would look at this and say, that's not journalism. If the worst of that is true, that Adam Schefter's saying, hey, Bruce, tell me how to write this.
But what I need to know and what I want, what I get from Schefter, is that the Broncos signed John Brown to the practice squad. I don't care how he goes about getting
but
it.
You want to know if it's true or not. And I don't doubt
That's true.
The accuracy in this reporting. I don't. When we were at our most intense part of our debate back here, you said if Adam Schefter is someone that's not a league partner and working in his job, he could be disciplined for something like this. And I told you, but he is. And I know that he is. So is the frustration with people that just don't get the deal with Adam Schefter, that there are people out there that don't know how to differentiate these things.
Mike, I think people would be surprised that he afforded someone an opportunity to proofread a story that he was reporting on.
Not at
People
all.
are gonna-
I'm not
you're-
at all
But
surprised.
Mike,
You're not, but
you
people
work
are
in
going to be
media.
surprised.
You know how the sausage gets made more than probably the average person. I do think that this, there's obviously a problem with media literacy in this country because you can't go on a website and differentiate what is a reported story, what's an investigative story versus what's branded content on a lot of websites. Like, that's a real issue too.
Which, to Jess's point, is why this is so important. In some ways, the conversation we're having earlier in the show about John Gruden and being taken out of the Ring of Honor in Tampa, but then you have to go back and vet everyone else. The reason why that's important is because all the other side is meant to do is just muddy the waters and go, well, you might think that fake news on Facebook is BS, but everything is BS. The New York Times is BS because they're gonna look at the shit that they do to get their story. Look at what ESPN is doing to get their stories. And all you have to do is muddy the waters, dilute the trust in any of it so that you can dilute the trust in all of it.
But when I say it's one of the great heartbreaks of my life, I think of the Washington Post and just a couple of newspapers that have the resources, the wherewithal to do it right now, that democracy dies in the darkness. That when you start gray airing all this stuff and do it under shouting about freedom, what you're actually doing is you're threatening this very important checks and balances. If you keep making the people who do it with this standard irrelevant because you'll believe anything and you'll muddy the waters, those people won't be there for you. We're seeing it in Miami. These local hours I'm doing with Billy Corben are batshit crazy. That it's so hard with limited resources to handle corruption if you're not holding this highest of journalistic standard against these politicians who have no shame, are incapable of shame. Like, this is what's happening in this country now, and what I'm talking about is apocalyptic, and it's stupid compared to, really? Schefter's report on practice squads or whether he needs Bruce Allen information. Like, this is not the fall of democracy over here.
But this is also not investigative journalism. I mean, it is. I actually think outside of, is this okay, Mr. Editor, and the person actually writing it, I think the journalism behind it is, hey, is this accurate? I think it's journalism. That is.
But my people don't. You're in the business. Jess is right. People don't want to see how chummy of a relationship that Adam Schefter has
Well, they weren't
with
meant
a
to.
person that he's reporting on.
It was
That's
leaked.
fair.
Okay,
but now
and-
that they've seen it, I think that's going to
It
make
was
some
leaked.
people uncomfortable.
It would make people uncomfortable what I know and what I don't say on the air because I protect my sources.
Of course.
And also, for what it's worth, this article could be completely accurate. There could be no factual errors in this piece, but now you know it's coming from a source who is the president of the Washington football team, and he had a say in the way it was framed. You can have accuracy, but still come at it from a different perspective because the person who proofread it is someone who has skin in the game.
And that accuracy it's Bruce Allen's version of events. In theory, the journalist's role is arbiter of the truth. You take something from one side, something from the other side, put it together, and you write the truth. And if, for example, we're having a dispute about something in a labor negotiations, Bruce Allen is going to come at that a lot differently than a player rep from the Players Association. So what he believes to be the truth might not actually be. It is just his version of events. And so, like, I understand the ethical and journalistic breach in, well, if you're just handing over your journalism to someone who has skin in the game, it might not be entirely true.
It can take away the impartiality. It depends on whether you believe that Adam Schefter, this is where credibility resides. Do you believe that Adam Schefter is an ethical creature who's not going to be slanted by labor, by management, by agents, by business interests with Bob Kraft? And it speaks to the core issue here. The core of it is trust. Do you trust Schefter? But I can flip that on you and say, how do you think he got this good at this? These people trust him. He treats them with care. He's an unbelievable human being. Like I don't know if you saw the HBO Real Sports special on him and his relationship to 9/11 and what his family became after 9/11. He's a kind and decent and good person. Do you trust him? And his sources clearly trust him. Is it because he's compromised? That's for you to discern. Or is it because he cares? He treats things with great care.
That's certainly, I don't like seeing Mr. Editor flash across my timeline either, but I think that's irrefutable, Dan. But I also, I don't even know if this is me being in the media because I'm not in that type of media. I just consume it. Like, I know if Adrian Wojnarowski reports a story about the Cavs, that's coming from Dan Gilbert. I know if Chris Haynes reports something, that's coming from LeBron's camp. I know now that if Shams has a scoop about Kyrie, that's coming from Kyrie. I know I can kind of connect the dots on who's feeding who here.
No, but that's a media literacy, though, that you've acquired from talking to people that work in this industry.
Most people do not. Most people do not have
John,
that.
I know John Heyman is Scott Boris's guy. Like, I can piece together like who's scooping. I know that if Dan reports something, it's not really from a Heat player perspective for the most part. It's probably coming from relationships in that organization.
But Mike, most people aren't armed with that knowledge. They aren't armed with the knowledge of how our industry works. You are. The public is not.
And I think, Dan, the phrase you used was, it's for you to discern. And I think that's where the subject of media literacy comes into play. And I think like almost taking journalism classes might have to be a prerequisite for people in college or in high school now, because you are entering an enormous information ecosystem unprepared to handle, especially as you're handing people new technologies to consume them, unprepared for how to discern what all this information is. Like, for you to discern is, I don't know anything about journalism, but I'm trying to figure this shit out. And I think that's very hard. Like, we know because we all work in this. We talk to journalists. We're somewhat familiar with the process, even if we don't do it ourselves.
This is why I'm heartbroken at what is happening in the country, because I have noticed over the last 15 years, never mind just sports, people don't care about making those particular discernments. And the reason that it alarms me so much, coming from Cuban parents who lost their freedom, is this is how propaganda happens. This is how you don't trust the government state newspaper or Facebook, because you don't know what people are arguing about facts, getting their own information. Everyone's arguing, everyone's confused. No one trusts anybody. Like, it's an act of warfare. Like, I'm not trying to be apocalyptic about this. This is how you do it. And we're starting with a practice squad tweet of Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter.
I mean, it's just Shefty.
I don't think this is what
here?
I don't think this is what Putin had in mind.
He's doing it through Schefter, Mike. Clearly, this is the work. I think
America's fiber is tearing apart at the seams.
Yes, I believe that the Russian hackers are working through Schefter in order to
the
destroy
Broncos practice
football
squad
and America. And God help us when they get Fangio's tweets. The whole thing's coming down.
Thanks.
Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day.
I have discarded, not nominated. It did not make the cut. Dawson Knox had no college touchdown catches, none. I don't know where he went to college, but he's a bit of a surprise scoring touchdowns for the Bills. There's another stat I have discarded. Jenna Lane of ESPN says that the Bucs now have scored 45 or more points in 5 of Tom Brady's 21 games. They had done so 5 times in the 44 seasons before he arrived there. But I've discarded that one as well for a stat that, while I did not verify, I'm having a hard time believing is true. I cannot believe that it's true. The Jags don't have a field goal in 287 days.
Come again?
Say it again.
The Jags
Yes.
don't have a field goal in 287 days. I have not checked the stat. I don't know if it's right or not. It doesn't seem to me like it could possibly be right that the Jags have gone through these 20 losses without kicking any field goals.
I apologize if you said it. Where'd you get the stat from?
Just off the internet.
Oh, okay.
I did not say it. I don't know if it's true or not.
Okay.
At which point I will have ruined the segment and we'll have to parachute out of it because I made the mistake of not checking it.
I'm checking it.
Well, I can confirm that this year they have not made a field goal. Josh Lambo is 0 for 3, and Matthew Wright is 0 for 1 on field goals. So they have not kicked a field goal this year. But I'll see how far that goes back into last season.
So-
'Cause it is a little bit of a rhetorical trick because they kind of went 9 months without playing games. But it would have been at some point
That's
towards
what
the
he's
end of
going
last
for
season.
there.
Yeah.
That is what I'm going for there. I wasn't saying that they were going across 4 or 5 seasons, but still, it means they probably haven't kicked a field goal since last year either.
How many days in a year?
I think I might have gone with the Brady stat. It's probably a better stat than the rhetorical trick of 287 days. You know who we haven't talked about very much? We have not. Stugotz has proclaimed Jerry Jones a good general manager, and I think he's now arguing that the Cowboys are the best team in the league.
We're having a debate back here. Genuinely, Stugotz, do you know how many days there are in a year?
No, that's why I asked.
No, for real though. I'm rooting for you. All right, let's take bets.
Go ahead, you guys bet.
For instance,
I'm saying
what's a line DraftKings has given us? Do not let him touch his computer.
I think yes has to be a heavy favorite
Scratching
just
his armpit.
because.
Cliche.
Nervous.
No, because
No.
how
Cliches.
because
I
how
think
can how can you be a grown adult and not know how many days there are in a year?
No. I'm
I'm
going
going-
no based off of one technicality. Happens every 4
Are you talking?
years.
You talking about leap year? He
Yes.
doesn't even know what leap year is. Don't even worry about
But then I just won that.
Well,
Yeah,
we just
what-
skip a year.
No.
I mean,
I think he might know because of cliches. Like give 110%, 24/7, blah 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 blah.
The scratching of the armpit, though, is usually a tell with him. It's one of the few things that reveals itself. He might not know this. I would have guessed that can't be right, but you guys seized on it. Did you see a tell before I saw the tell?
No, it's just me genuinely curious. Do you think he knows? And it's always great to have someone like that in your life. But I'm just like the
Thank
payoff.
you.
If you know, I'm happy. Like I'm good. Like there's no bad answer here. It's just us following my curiosity.
Yes, has to be a big favorite. Yes, he knows
You'd
has to be a
think.
big.
how did the betting work out here? Because I can be bought. I mean,
No, I just want to know. Just answer. I know you picked. You get to lie for an entire show. This is not that show.
you want me to be honest here?
I want you to be honest with me.
Okay,
Answer this question.
How many days?
How many days are in a year?
365.
Wow.
That's big.
That's big.
Big. I didn't touch my computer. I didn't do anything.
Look at him, proud of himself.
Were you worried?
Look at him.
Were
I
you
was
worried?
a little nervous. Yeah. yeah.
All right,
Like,
now-
you guys knew something I didn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I got another one. Do the national anthem.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Without looking it up.
Say, can you see by the star? I don't think I can do it.
No.
Could anybody? Do you think you
it's
can do
tricky.
the?
I know
It's
it.
tough. Yeah.
No, I could not.
It's tough
Do it. I could
because
not
like
do it.
even the professional, not the professionals, but the people that sports teams bring in, I hear lines screwed up all the time. There's ors where there shouldn't be, ors for a couple of lines in that song. I don't think I can get the whole thing.
Huh.
I couldn't.
I think I know it. I don't.
Yo, you good to know that you also love America. I think I can do it too.
Can you get further than
I
I
could
got?
probably do it.
Yeah, because you go to hockey games.
Yeah.
I know damn well I'm singing red at the top of my lungs.
In O Canada.
Still
Oh,
there.
Canada.
Ah, Jim
Careful with that
Cornelius.
note. That was that gray area that we
Oh,
were talking about
Canada's
earlier
easier,
this
though.
week.
No, it was this. It
There.
was this.
You're, man, I don't know. Laura
You
Ingram
look-
also probably had an
you
excuse.
look
Just
like you're, I don't know why you
Careful.
extended your arm that
Because
way.
he
I
points at the
really
flag,
don't.
but it's the back of his hand, and my elbow is also bent.
I told you earlier this week, dangerous game.
yeah, we also
Yes.
alluded to the fact there might be a gray area, and I think we just found it, Jess.
Just keep your arm down. Just don't.
I believe your
At
heart
all
to be
costs.
pure.
Yeah.
That's
Don't put your arm
I'm
out.
Like
willing to
what we're
extend you the
alleging
benefit of the
here.
doubt that you're a decent person. Okay, so gray
You
area.
just got here. We don't know you that well, so
Yeah.
you might be in a disguise, that Gruden disguise,
I
while
think
you're
I'd
pretending
like
to be all woke and stuff.
Let me see your emails.
Are we really hashtag her emailsing me after like 3 months?
Her emails. Wow.
Stugotz thinks the Cowboys are the best team in the league, and Jerry Jones is a good general manager.
I really do. I don't think he gets enough credit. I'm not saying he's doing it on his own. I'm not certain if Dallas is the best team in the league. I think Dallas is really, really good, and they're one of those teams where if they're holding up the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the season, I'm not going to be surprised. But to my point about Jerry Jones, I know Stephen Jones, his son, is also helping out. But when you think about how they constructed that team, and they did so mostly through the draft, with Jerry as the GM, by selecting Dak Prescott, by getting Zeke Elliott, by getting Tony Pollard, by getting that offensive line, by taking CeeDee Lamb, by getting Micah Parsons, by trading for Amari Cooper. Jerry Jones has been at the forefront of putting this team together, and he's done a phenomenal job in putting a team together basically through the draft, where, I mean, think about all the draft picks, and he built his offensive line through the draft. So think about all the draft picks, the criticism we give people for not being able to draft correctly, yet the Cowboys are hitting at a clip that I think is probably better than just about any other team out there.
And they fixed their defense enough. Their
Micah Parsons is really good.
Their defense was an apocalypse last year.
Yeah, and Trayvon Diggs as well.
Yeah.
So my feeling about the Cowboys,
He didn't have
is,
another pick this weekend, did he? Trayvon Diggs didn't have a pick against the Giants, did he?
I believe he did.
I think he did.
So it's 6 and 5 games now with a pick 6?
Yep, 6 and 5 games. Yep. So my thing about the Cowboys is I feel like I owe the entire sports take industry an apology. Because for 9 months, First Take, Get Up, First Things First, Skip and Shannon Show, all these shows, for 9 months, all they did was Dak Prescott's contract extension. And I thought, why are they doing this for a quarterback that I don't think matters that much?
I'll remember it as what we did during the pandemic, that and Tiger King.
Yeah. It's all we talked about.
Don't leave out The Last Dance, please.
Oh, good
Okay,
shout.
Thank you.
Good shout. But all those shows
Love
debated
is blind.
do you give Dak Prescott a contract extension? And it's like, why are we discussing this much over a quarterback that I don't think is very good? I think he's like, I think he's a decent quarterback. No, I'm saying okay. I'm saying
He's good. He's
Wait,
really
wait,
good.
this is
time
my
out.
apology.
Hold
This is
on.
my apology.
Guys,
I'm not
back
done
off
yet.
for a second.
I was going to help him out and saying Chris's defense. I was
I'm-
actually thinking the same thing.
I'm with him on underestimating Dak Prescott based on where he's drafted and not thinking he was, I can throw for more passing yards consistently than anybody any given week of the season. I think that's why we were discussing it that way, not just because he was the Cowboys quarterback. A lot of people doubted it, even though numerically we probably shouldn't have doubted it.
I just thought it was a product of this amazing talent that they have in Dallas, right? What Stugotz is talking about. Dak Prescott's awesome.
Yes.
He has been incredible this year. That offense is awesome. They have 2 good running backs. Zeke Elliott just ran for 100 yards. He appears to be okay again. They have 2 really good wide receivers. It seems like Dak Prescott loves this Dalton Schultz. He's great. He's a great tight end.
Another guy they drafted, by the way, a cyborg.
That offense is unstoppable. And people are talking about their offensive, like Tony Romo, just kind of out of nowhere during a broadcast just goes, oh yeah, Kellen Moore is getting a head coaching job this year. It's like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? I think the league is recognizing how good he is at his job. Dak Prescott is incredible. Coming off of that injury, the hip in particular seems to be one that's really tough to come back from. He has been incredible this season. And I owe him an apology. I thought, what's all this fuss about Dak Prescott for?
Way to go, Whittingham.
Yes.
Way to go. Way to go, Whittingham.
I love that. Bigger man than I.
I've never felt so supported on a
Bigger
take.
man than I.
This is great. I mean, Whittingham agrees with me.
Whittingham,
It's amazing.
and agrees with you with such zeal that he feels the need to apologize to Dak Prescott as if he were listening.
And the Sports Take Industrial Complex.
Yeah, that was really good stuff. Dallas is super fun to watch. They're getting back to that super physical football that made them fun to watch a couple of years ago, but now they have the added dynamic of Dak Prescott's become a really good quarterback.
He's completing excuse me. He's completing.
$5.
Oh
It's
no,
$5.
I got 5. Someone owes me 10 now.
$5.
He's completed 75% of his passes.
$5.
Okay, I'll put it in.
I'd like to also very
I'll have it at
quickly,
20,
we can just move this along real quick. I'm
Costing
going
me a
to
lot,
apologize
this
to Lamar Jackson, and we move on back to Dak Prescott.
whoa.
No. I'm just
Why are you
briefly-
apologizing
I
to
mean, that
Lamar
was
Jackson?
pretty
Why
quick.
now?
I mean,
That's Polian flame, man.
No,
What are you
I'm
doing?
just going to apologize to Lamar Jackson. We can keep it
Rug.
moving.
What about Herbert? You want to
I
apologize?
did that earlier in the week, and I apologize to Josh Allen. I told you where I was coming from. Don't hold Herbert against me. Don't make what I said bigger than it actually was. I just said coming into the NFL, I didn't think Justin Herbert was all that great. And 2 weeks ago, I'm like, you're talking about him like he's the best quarterback in the world, and he's statistically the 3rd best quarterback in his division. I'm still very shocked at some of his big play passing numbers. It doesn't translate to what I see on my eyes, but he's a very
I
good
just love it.
quarterback.
I love it as a sports argument, all of it. You didn't believe in him enough. You thought he was a little bit better than he actually was. You did.
Yeah.
You did. You thought he was overrated.
It's okay. And for years, I've been saying, I don't know about Lamar Jackson. When he becomes a predictable offense, that
was Gruden's greatest crime. We had a black quarterback have a quarterback performance, and Gruden stole the black quarterback shine. That was Lamar Jackson's night. That
fourth quarter was awesome.
That
Yeah,
should
he
have
was
been
awesome.
his. That should have been his night.
My whole thing against Lamar Jackson is if he goes down big and it becomes a predictable passing offense, can he do it? And he did it against the AFC champion Chiefs, even though they botched that game, as someone that bet on the Chiefs. And he did it against the Colts when they were predictable. He was really good. So I apologize to Lamar Jackson for now. But I reserve the right to be back and also elevate the fact that I am a Cleveland Browns fan, and a lot of what I'm doing is just I'm not going to root for a Raven. Now, audience, it's your turn to apologize to me for you pushing back on my Cam Newton takes for so long.
I have to.
Hold on. Let's give the audience a chance.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see you're just as stubborn as I am, audience. Yeah. I had people calling me racist in my mentions. Guy hasn't been good in 6 goddamn years.
I have to apologize to Josh Allen
And Tom Brady.
and Tom Brady for 10 years. I've got to apologize.
3.5 years, okay?
I don't know if any of us are going to have to render any kind of apology to Mike Ryan on Baker Mayfield, though. Where the
jury's out.
No.
No, I've even come around on Baker Mayfield. I still think Baker Mayfield is good. And this is going to be the new do you pay Dak? Because I think Baker had a really good game on Sunday against the Chargers, but I also think he didn't stretch the field as much as I'd like. He was also playing without his 2 tackles, which got in Stefanski's own head.
Odell
Stefanski admitted that.
Beckham is open 75% of the time, according to the advanced metrics.
creating separation.
One of the most open receivers in the league.
If Baker was only taller.
Yeah. But the offense creates a lot of open looks for a lot of receivers. And I'm only like 50% sure Odell's going to catch it if we put it on the money. That's always been the problem with Odell. But let's get back to Baker. I think I'm at the point now where I come at with Baker, which I think I've articulated, is I've been searching 20 years for a quarterback as good as Baker Mayfield. I'm not going to push him out the door. I'm not going to do this thing, which is what we see in the media, which is Kirk Cousins sucks. No, Kirk Cousins you can win with. Situationally, he's good. Baker Mayfield needs to be a better situational quarterback. If his ceiling is going to be that Tannehill, Flacco range, right? That Derek Carr range, he just needs to be better situationally. Derek Carr is very good in late game situations. Kirk Cousins, for the most part, is good in late game situations. I need Baker, if that's his ceiling, to be better in late game situations.
While we're all making apologies, I want to apologize to Daniel Jones because I cackled when he was drafted 6th overall to the Giants a couple years ago. I thought he was going to be the worst quarterback in the league.
I said it earlier this year. I said every team in the league had a quarterback who could do something except Daniel Jones.
And you know what? He's not great, but he does something once a game or so, maybe a couple times a game that you're like, wow, that was really athletic, and I'm impressed. He's not the worst quarterback in the league. He's fine.
I think he's good. I think he's good. He had a lot of weapons taken away from him. He's limited the turnovers, which was always a big thing with him. And I think he's good. But if you look at his numbers, he's Baker Mayfield, and we just treat him differently.
I love this as a segment, apologizing to quarterbacks who we still don't know whether they're good or not.
I'd like to apologize to Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo was a half away from making a Super Bowl. And I have spent the last 2 seasons saying that you're not going to win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. But as I watched Trey Lance play last week and Jimmy Garoppolo was not there, he somehow became better looking and became a better quarterback. And Jimmy Garoppolo is a quarterback in that system that could win the San Francisco 49ers a Super Bowl. And we all owe him an apology. I got it out there.
No,
Well said.
You owe him an apology.
Now, I heard you say some bad things about Jimmy G as well.
I said I wanted the Steelers to trade for him like 2 weeks ago.
I mean, that's obvious, though. Yeah, Big Ben, I'm sorry.
You
not
want
to Big
Jacoby
Ben.
Brissett right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not sorry to Big Ben. He can apologize to me.
He can apologize to all of us.
Yeah.
Does
I've seen some of those games.
Does
I
Big
love
Ben
Big
need to
Ben.
apologize to
Apologize for
all
that
of
Bengals
us?
game.
He should. We should
Just
call him and get an
Playing better
apology.
lately. I mean,
One game. He had one game where he should have thrown 2 other interceptions that were dropped.
He threw one right at a linebacker.
No, 2.
Like,
He threw 2.
It was like it was his intended
he
target.
did it twice, and
Happens.
Stugotz is so. Ben was great, 15 of 25.
Yeah.
Like he threw the ball downfield a couple of times, and because we saw him throw it down the field a couple of times, we're like, yes, thank you, no more slants.
we were head to head, grit of death. That's why you're mad at Ben. I mean, he won me that game, and you lost. I mean,
you
he
and
did-
Jessica
yeah.
talking about how great Ben was
He
when he
was.
was just fine.
He had a QB rating of 120.7. I mean, that's great.
Fine.
Sometimes you just need a fine quarterback when you have a great first round draft pick as your running back and you have great offensive weapons at wide receiver. R.I.P. Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm going to miss him the rest of the season. I
I'm
love him
not.
so much.
Good riddance.
He's still with us.
He's still with us. Yeah, I mean, he's not dead.
Well, he can't play though.
Some people can play through that.
Should apologize for that.
He probably can't dance anymore, Tony.
He's out for
Well,
4 months.
He
What do you
opted for
mean?
It's
surgery.
his shoulder.
Yeah, you hear what Odell Beckham Jr. said? Yeah, I've been playing with a
Who's gonna walk
dislocated shoulder my
Bougie?
entire career.
Who's going to walk Bougie? His shoulder's hurt.
Bougie's his dog.
Bougie Smith-Schuster.
Oh yeah, that's his dog. Yeah.
So to recap, sorry Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy G.
Sorry, Josh Allen.
Sorry Josh Allen.
Sorry, Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr. Or no.
Sorry Dak Prescott.
No, sorry to Ben Roethlisberger. He owes you an apology.
Sorry Lamar Jackson. You apologize to me for Cam Newton.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry to Daniel Jones.
Sorry to the Sports Take Industrial Complex.
Skip Bayless personally
No, I'm
from
not doing that.
from Woody.
Is Stephen A. running scared? Is Stephen A. running scared of this Cowboys team?
Yes.
They're in his number 2 slot in his A list of top 5 teams.
I mean,
But you know what he's doing right now.
you're right. He's setting it up.
He's
Yeah.
building him up to knock him right down. So he can send out a tweet of him in a cowboy hat smoking a cigar laughing. It's
the
all a
second
setup.
they lose.
Yeah.
Yes. the
No, it's
second they
a
lose.
page out of Skip's playbook.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to hype this person up, but you know exactly what they're doing when they go missing.
Mike, do you feel like you have a? I was doing my top 8 quarterbacks in the AFC and NFC because I do it every week. And your quarterback, do you feel like you have a top 8 quarterback in your own conference? Because you
Flip
don't.
the AFC.
Yeah.
I think it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's right there.
Right.
Oh shit, that's tough.
I know it is.
I think he's
top 8 in your own
I think he's
conference.
good. I think he's good. He needs to get better. Oh god.
Can he be the 8th best quarterback in the conference?
Because this is
They
where.
can still win a Super Bowl with him being the 8th best quarterback in the conference.
So 6, 7, 8 is Burrow, Tannehill, and Carr this week for me in my top 8. I have it right here.
Yeah,
I always
listen,
have it
I'm
with
taking
me.
Kansas City's quarterback.
I just love. Can we rewind it all to Stugotz's last 30 years of drafts he's ignoring on Jerry Jones?
What have you done for me lately?
I may have a top 8 quarterback. I'm feeling good about this. In the AFC, there are 16 teams in the AFC.
Yeah,
Okay, so top half of my own conference. Come on,
You
Baker,
don't.
you can do this.
Mike, you're not going to get there.
I've got Kansas City's quarterback being better than him.
Right.
1.
He's 4th on my list.
Buffalo's quarterback being better than him. That's 2.
He's 3rd. Yeah.
Baker's better than New England's quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yes, agreed.
Oh God, this one really freaking hurts.
Lamar Jackson.
Taking Lamar Jackson over him.
Of course you
That's
are.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders is tough. Raiders.
That's where it gets
I'm
tough.
gonna put that one to the side.
Put
we'll
it off
circle
to the
back.
side. All right, don't forget about a guy who's not playing.
What? Who?
Deshaun Watson.
Nah,
No,
that doesn't
he's not in the
count.
AFC right now. Phew, thank God he doesn't count.
All right.
All right.
Siberia.
So now
Yeah.
do top 7.
All right, hang on. Wait, we're at 3. We're Chargers. That's 4. I'll take Baker over Teddy Bridgewater. I'll take Baker over Carson Wentz. I'll take God, Joe Burrow's tough.
That's it.
I'm gonna put that one on the side.
Okay.
All right.
So we got a Burrow and a car off to
We
the
got
side.
a Burrow and a car off to the side. Better than Zach Wilson.
Yes.
Better than Trevor Lawrence right now.
for now.
Yeah.
Better than Trevor Lawrence
Yes,
right now.
for
Trevor
now.
Lawrence is not
Too many
good.
picks. Too many picks, Jess.
You're
Too many
gonna
picks.
get one
Yeah.
more, I think, where you're gonna want to put
better
him
than
off to the
Tua-
side.
Better than Tua right now.
Yeah.
Tannehill.
Yeah, that's
I
it.
mean,
That's
no. They went head to head. They went head to head last year, and Baker looked a lot better than Tannehill. I'm not gonna
Ooh.
just do the 1 game sample, but I'm gonna go Baker's better.
Tannehill's getting the ball to Odell. I promise you. I mean, he throws a great deep ball.
It's enough with Tannehill. It's enough. Like the
Yeah,
most
no.
system team
Yeah.
dependent quarterback. Like had a nice season. Congratulations. You have Derrick Henry running
So
for
much salt.
2,000 yards running behind you every season.
Not bitter at all.
Life's a bit easy when you got Derrick Henry running
Yeah.
for 2,000 yards a season.
Sea
Please.
salt.
The tipping point is Tannehill. I'm gonna say he's better than Tannehill. He's better than Davis Mills' neck.
One of my favorite things is Witty's dolphin resentments.
He's so mad. He knows that.
I waited 7 goddamn years to find an answer for him.
Enough with Tannehill. It's something we were saying 5 years ago.
He's played in 2 championship
we've
games.
Been saying enough with Tannehill for
Enough.
half a decade. We will give you Baker Mayfield solely on the grounds of enough with Tannehill.
Even if I concede Burrow and Carr, I still have a top 8 quarterback in the conference. Even if I concede those two.
Because you're putting him ahead of Tannehill.
Even if I concede Tannehill, I have a top 8 quarterback. That's math, baby.
All right, but I was including Watson, so I took, I had Deshaun Watson in there.
So you
I
have,
love that even in your hypothetical lists, you compromise your principles.
An AFC quarterback. He's on a roster. I mean,
just insisting
Do
on
Zach Wilson
inserting
next.
Deshaun Watson.
so dumb.